What's going on, guys? I'm Emmer Kesey with Game Time Discussions. I'm sitting here with Cameron Selby, and we are going to knock out another live stream for this Week 5 slate. There's a lot of cool stuff to talk about today, and if you watched our first looks video, you will see a lot of differences. A lot has changed since that first week or first look, and we have a lot of stuff to talk about. So, yeah, it's going to be really exciting, though. I'm
Yeah,
really
I,
excited.
I actually really enjoyed this slate more than I thought I would early in the week, and most of that comes from injuries that we weren't expecting to either take place and keep people out, or people that we thought we were going to return in good spots. Unfortunately, they're not able to make it for this week, or very limited to where we're not even going to prioritize them. So, a lot of interesting stuff. It'll be fun. Let's kind of just jump right into some outlooks and stuff like that.
Well, I think the first thing we're going to do is we're going to this
Oh yeah,
game
yes,
because we
that was a
have to
banger,
recap this game.
banger of a Thursday night game.
Yeah, we got an overtime game on Thursday night. I saw some tweets that were pretty funny. It was like, "This is how you Thursday night football," and I was like, "Yep, absolutely." No boring. Came out of this game 509 yards, I believe. Yeah, 509 yards. Oh, is it me? Oh, okay.
We're our own
Um,
stream.
Yep. 509 yards out of Kirk Cousins, 58 total passes. That's just ridiculous. He actually passed Matt Ryan for the franchise record for the most passing
Mm-hmm.
yards in a game for the Atlanta Falcons, which was recently 503. I think
Yeah,
it was 503,
503.
right? Yeah. So this was such a cool game. But yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny. First off, like Baker having under 180 yards, like you would think is pretty pedestrian, but that's honestly so shocking based on the way he played, because he was flawless
Yeah.
throughout the entire game, and it was just Kirk really kind of turned it on towards the end of the game, and the strip fumble of Bucky Irving
Mm-hmm.
when they were in field goal range, trying to make it a 6 point game with under 2 minutes left. That really turned it around, and then they know how to get down and spike the ball with 12 seconds left, unlike Dallas, infamously from 2 years ago. And that's what we were watching the game together, and I was freaking out. I was like, "Don't do that! Don't do that!"
Yeah.
And it ended up working out. And then they score in overtime. Kadero Hodge, who was 0.09% owned on the showdown slate, catching the game winning 50-yard touchdown is a pretty cool thing for him.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the only thing is, it was so frustrating because a lot of our props were Bijan over on receiving yards. And out of all the 509 yards, you're telling me Bijan couldn't get more than 20?
Yeah, he got
That was
16,
pretty insane.
16 yards. I
His
was
usage has just been beyond frustrating, and
mm,
honestly even more frustrating than Kyle Pitts, because he's more talented than Kyle Pitts is. And they just continue to, like, the entire overtime, essentially, they were Tyler Algier was on the field, and then I think the final play or two, they didn't use him, but
right.
Kadero Hodge caught the game winner, and it's just like, you just drafted this guy 8th overall. He's healthy. He's your best weapon, and not even to have him on the field
Yeah.
is just kind of malpractice to me.
Well, on both sides, like, I actually had watching this game, I remembered why I thought Bucky Irving was a bad prospect. Like, he is just, of course, he's got some good quickness and stuff, but like, he is so soft. Like, when he goes into holes and stuff, he just gets thrown like a rag doll.
Right.
And Jesse Bates is still absolutely one of the best safeties in football, making and creating turnovers, two giant punches. Chris Godwin earlier in the game that Mike Evans actually jumped on,
Mm-hmm.
and then he just punching the ball out everywhere. So yeah, this game was awesome, and you don't really get football like this always. Like they're gonna play in 3 weeks again, so that'll be awesome
Right.
too. So we're gonna see it again, and I'm just excited. It's really hard to beat the same team twice. So I'll probably side with the Buccaneers again.
Right. I'm just hoping weather, because it is prime hurricane season. The East
Right.
Coast was affected throughout the week and whatnot, and hopefully that with Florida weather being so sporadic, just like Texas, essentially, um, they can hold off so we can have another fun frenzy, and we can just
Yes.
prioritize that as like some double stacks and bring backs
Hmm.
in a couple weeks. But
And maybe Baker will be the one throwing for 500 this time.
maybe, yeah.
Let me jump over to the other tab though and talk about our pick. Quick recap. I don't remember how we did last week.
I sucked again.
9-7. That's okay. I mean, 11-5 three of us, but
Mhm.
and then 9 and 7. The real thing to look at is these spread picks, though.
Yeah, you've absolutely been killing it with your top five. And again, it's just your favorite five of the week is what we haven't put a name together for them, but we need to.
Yeah, we'll come up with a cool
But
segment.
but yeah, so basically Emory 13-7, 65% hit rate is a really strong start. Me is about 50%. Some of them were bad beats towards the end,
Right.
but usually 50% is where you want to be and above. So I'm kind of just on par, and Emory is just running away with some eagles and birdies and
I
stuff.
was really sad though because
Oh yeah,
Atlanta
yeah.
26-24 game ending. So my 2.5 didn't like neither of us got the 2.5, which sucks
And they
because
were up twice going
Mhm,
in the fourth. New Orleans was driving, and they stopped them,
right.
and they were up
Yeah.
on that spread, and then they allowed them the final drive to score, and then they had to come back
And
and
kick
kick
that
a
field
game
goal.
winner
Yeah.
to win by 2, and it's just like, oh, okay.
So
That's
close.
why sometimes you got to just do money line and not just
Mhm.
force points in there because you could be right and wrong at the same time.
Exactly. So for week 5 though, um there's a bunch of really good games, especially a game that's happening right
Oh
now.
yeah.
It's currently on. So I'm hoping that everybody here is not only watching us, but also has that muted in the background, not us the other way around. Um, but so the Jets are playing the Vikings right now. I don't even know the score. Maybe we're already wrong that we have the Jets picked because both of us picked the Jets over Minnesota. I
It's
did
it just started, so it's
okay.
still O's.
But yeah, no, we both picked the Jets. We there's just in my opinion no way Minnesota wins another game in a
Mhm.
row, and also the fact that it all is in the England, and that's a little weird for teams. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's the first London game. I just think that the Jets were the more talented team, and basically the way that Minnesota's been playing, that's why they were juiced to. I think they ended at 2.5.
gotcha.
But I just think the wrong team is favored if it's a neutral site game because even though it says Jets at Vikings, it's obviously they're both
Hmm.
traveling overseas. So, but Vikings have a bye going into next week, so that'll be good for them. Very strong start. They jumped to our number one in our power rankings.
Yep.
Had to give them the respect they deserve because they're playing the best football right now through the first month of the season. Can they stay that way? We'll see. But that should be a fun one that we can hopefully kind of keep our eyes on throughout the stream.
Yeah, Gary, will you please keep us updated on the score as we go throughout the day? I would really appreciate that. Next up, everybody picked Chicago over the Panthers at a home. And then Baltimore Cincinnati is split 3-3. We both went Cincinnati. I think that Cincinnati's going to need to get right sooner or later. And they always play Baltimore really well. So why wouldn't it be right here? They're at home. They get that opportunity. Next up, we got New England versus Miami. New England actually, I think you said closed as the dog, started as
Yeah,
the favorite,
two
closed as
different
the
games
dog.
flipped. They were basically 1 point to the one, and then they switched to the other. And so that was one game that I have no confidence in either team. And we both kind of split, and it's kind of basically even between everybody. But yeah, I mean, they're both bad teams. It'll be a 13-10 game, and whoever kicked more field goals pretty much is probably going to win that game.
Right. Cleveland, Washington, everybody's on the Washington side of it except for us. That's because I just Cleveland's actually pretty good on defense, and I think we forgot about that part because Deshaun Watson has played so bad.
And
But
Washington, 3 straight games of Giants, Bengals, and Cardinals defenses that we're going to prioritize against the entire season
right,
in DFS. And so now they have a stretch of like Cleveland, Baltimore, which will be tougher. Um, and then Carolina, another home game that they should kind of dominate. But then Chicago, no slouch defensively as well. So I don't know. It's hard to ju- even more so than the Vikings going 5-0. It's even harder to imagine Washington starting 4-1. Um, just where they're at. I mean, I think they're just playing better than what they truly are. Cleveland is, a better team overall. I think at the very moment, but they're just not showing it because they're just not playing
yeah.
well.
Then we all picked Jacksonville except for Clay. He picks Indy. Indy does have Joe Flacco starting today, so I think that's an interesting. We're going to talk about that storyline a lot today. And then Buffalo, Houston. Me and you were split. You were actually the only
I
one on
can't believe
Houston,
I'm the only one that picked
which I thought was
Houston at
surprising.
home.
Also,
Yeah, that's another game that flipped because Buffalo was favored by 1 and then it switched. Now Houston was favored as of this morning, which makes it even crazier that I'm the only one picking Houston because typically people follow the trends.
Right.
And but that's one of the most exciting aesthetic games. I we might be getting an underwhelming amount of exposure to that game today,
Mhm.
but who knows? Maybe we can force some stuff because there's a little bit of weather that might keep us off of some of the spots we want to do.
Right. And then the next team's up. You have the Denver Broncos getting everything against the Raiders at home. Arizona is I was the only one that picked Arizona out of everybody. San Francisco otherwise. I guess, and I didn't look at the spreads prior. I just kind of picked the teams as I normally do. Plus 7.5. We will be taking that as one of our spread picks because that's a big number and it's in division, not that far of a travel for the Cardinals going to San Francisco. I just think they just got beat up pretty bad last week, and I always like coming back on with teams that have had that issue.
Right.
So, full Green Bay slate. The next one is a full Seattle slate. So those are easy. Dallas, Pittsburgh. We actually split. I went Dallas. You went Pittsburgh. I think that Dallas isn't the more talented. They're not necessarily more talented. I think they have more pieces though and more explosion on offense, and I think they score more points in this game. And I know that Pittsburgh's defense is good, but this is a game that I think Dallas kind of has their number.
I don't deny that, but it just really made me nervous when Dallas just couldn't get the Giants off the field. And then now they're going to be without both of their star pass rushers for the foreseeable future. It's in Pittsburgh.
Right.
I'm just not going to, I don't have a lot of confidence in Dallas
Mhm.
in this spot. I know you said that I think that they can outscore them, but I think this is going to be a 2017 kind of game. And again, if you just can't get Pittsburgh off the field, I don't know if you're going to be able to get on top, but they actually do need this game because this is their easiest opponent basically over the next 5 weeks because they do have Detroit next week.
Mhm.
They're probably not going to lose on their bye week.
Off a bye.
And
Yeah, I
then
was going to say that.
San
Yeah.
Francisco on the road, Atlanta on the road, who we know is playing excellent now, and then Philly, and then Houston.
Yep.
And then at Washington, who is right now leading the NFC. So this might be one of the best spots to grab one, but I think it's just not a great
Well,
feeling on my end.
we're not the only ones split. I mean, it's 3-3 across the board, so everybody's kind of right in the middle in this game. Taking the underdog in this game is kind of comfortable because it's Dallas and you know what you're getting with Dak versus Justin Fields, who can be very inconsistent, who has done really well this year, but we know the ups and the downs for him. So that's why I think I'm more comfortable. Maybe I'm just taking the quarterback. And a lot of people don't like Dak, but you can't deny his regular season numbers and his ability to play in the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
Kansas City at home against the Saints. Everybody picks Kansas City. I am completely cool with that one. And then let's go to spread picks for the week. I'm going with this Jets team that started early today, so I guess I can get an automatic update while we're streaming. Probably Cam did too. I didn't even notice it.
I mean, most of our picks are
Some-
just like we picked the dogs outright, so they were
Right.
our spread picks. And then with Houston and the Buffalo side, me going Houston -1, I'm just going to eat that point.
Yeah.
And then Jacksonville, I just think with Flacco out, even if it should be a fun contest, Jacksonville should be winning this game, and they're, that's kind of the one that I wanted to go with. But then with you, like you said, you were surprised by how many dogs you picked, but it's like just pick the dog if
Right,
you're just
yeah.
getting the points.
Should have done that last week. I didn't pick the Jacksonville dog because I took Atlanta instead.
Mm-hmm.
Should have just taken the dog.
Yeah, you
I
would
would
have
have
been
been right. Yeah. But yeah, I really liked all these dogs, and then of course like Arizona at plus 7.5. I love 5.5 dogs this year, so why not get a nice 7.5 dog and let them win outright today? Dustin would be happy with that, as he said. Some birds up.
Yep.
Bird Gang in the chat. Gary had some Go Pack Go. Yes, Gary, we will hopefully get some Packers
We're gonna be
today.
talking some
So
Packers
yeah,
today, if you saw the thumbnail.
you will enjoy this stream today if you are a Packers fan. But next up, I'm gonna let you do a report for us for this actual slate.
Yeah, so kind of pretty straightforward. There's a possible, rain shower in London, but that's kind of irrelevant for the DFS slate because it's already started and it's in London. And then with Dallas, Pittsburgh skipping to the prime time, which again is not on the main slate. There's some possibilities of storms and stuff, but just kind of unknown when they'll kind of come through, and then possible wins thereafter.
Mhm.
Um, Chicago, Carolina, which probably will get a lot of ownership um, from DeAndre Swift having a big game, DJ Moore revenge game, Chuba Hubbard's been killing it, Deontay Johnson's been killing it. There's 25 up to 25-mile-an-hour gusts today there, so a lot of kind of dinking dunks, and could be kind of lower scoring than one would anticipate between that game, and then Indy Jacksonville, which is a game that we really like getting to today. Probably the most likely of the entire weekend to see rain, but nothing like a just consistent downpour, just kind of scattered showers throughout. I'm not sure how huge of an impact the fantasy slate will be, but it might kind of keep us a little underweight just because we know the exposure isn't what we think it would be for that game, other than maybe a receiver or two.
Yep. So, and then will you tell us the 5 highest totals? I believe Cincinnati, Baltimore still the highest at 48.5.
Yeah, so no, actually the Cardinals and the 49ers closed as tied for the highest with the Packers and Rams at
Oh, it
49.
changed since the
Mhm.
week because it was
Yeah,
51 for Baltimore, Cincinnati earlier in the week, and they're at 48 now, which is a big difference. So it
yeah,
got
that
bet way down.
went down a whole field goal. Then Baltimore, Cincinnati next, obviously, and then Buffalo, Houston, 47.5, and then the last one I believe is
Jacksonville, Indy.
yeah, Jacksonville, Indy at 45.5, which
Gotcha.
if there's rain, probably bet the under because
Right.
24-21 is under, and that's kind of seems about right for this game.
Yeah. So we're gonna get into some. It's not even 9 o'clock yet. We are moving. We're gonna get into some slates. Which slate would you like to start with? We won't start with the main, obviously. So
Yeah, let's do some early only because I think that one is my least favorite between that and the afternoon only. But
okay.
we're gonna play both anyway because we like to have fun. Um,
If you want some fun, make sure you
but
put
with
these
this
lines
one,
in.
there's kind of like with the afternoon, we know what quarterback we're prioritizing, and that's gonna make the difference more than line. With this one, there's four names that I really kind of think we should get to, and that's the two up top, which is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson,
Right.
or you go all the way down to the 5K range with Trevor and Joe Flacco.
Right.
So maybe we can do one build with both because everybody's in good spots. But again, I don't know if I want to do 100% exposure to a Jacksonville Indy game if I don't need to.
Right. And I
And
know.
plus, sorry to cut you off,
Good.
but it's also going to just be an emphatically different line for the most part because we're not going to be able to put in the same guys like we'd want to because we're spending 2,000 plus more for
Yeah.
different quarterbacks.
I have a preference at the top, so how about I pick the preference at the top and you pick the preference at the bottom, and
Okay.
then we'll go from there.
Let's do it.
My preference at the top is Lamar Jackson.
Okay.
Just a guy that, and we have to go through obviously all of the slate because we haven't talked about it. So let's look at all the pass catchers for Lamar. We actually did this on our first look. So I guess Aguilar can go in there, and then double tight end.
No, we can't.
Just kidding. I'll just put likely in there. We'll talk about his running mate in a minute, though.
And then you can even probably put in both Baltimore running backs just to throw in their prices because they're both going to gain ownership today.
Yep.
Because the running back slate on the early games it's pretty kind of spread out essentially. So yeah, with Lamar, it's kind of tough. He's always a tough quarterback to stack with because you just don't know when he gets his 25, how he's going to get it. Will he
Right.
rush for 100? Will he throw for 260 and 3 touchdowns? And with that being said, it's very inconsistent because last week, just as an example, 24 points. Zay Flowers, his number one target, who you probably would have stacked with, had one catch for 10 yards.
Mhm.
Mark Andrews did not have a catch. And then Isaiah likely had his third straight kind of pedestrian game since his breakout week one. And then Derrick Henry went for 200 yards. So it's just like, oh, so we should have stacked Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson.
Right.
Okay. And Justice Hill, for the record, has been pretty consistent as well. He had a touchdown, I think, roughly 19 points, and 5,300 is pretty reasonable for, the scat back between one, actually.
Yep.
So kind of It was interesting that was your preference, just because I know with Khalil Shakir out, it's a lot easier to kind of know where we're going to go with Josh Allen compared to Lamar. But I'm fine doing a Baltimore stack and see what we can do from there.
Yeah, I think with Lamar, I'm definitely going to be single stacking him, and it'll be Zay if I do it because I think Zay is the most viable. But I also want to say that the reason I today, like on with Baltimore, you have to play the game script game with them
Hmm.
because if you look at the scores, the times that Derrick Henry was really good, and I know Dallas it ended the game 28-25, but they were down more than that prior. Um,
Yeah, it was a negative game script game.
yeah, so Derrick Henry gets the ball 28 times or whatever it is. I mean, he ran the ball so many times. Let's go check it out. Uh, so 24 times game log pop up. There we go. 20 times last times against Dallas. Positive game script for him. Well, when it's a bad game script for him, he's got 13 rushes and 18 rushes. Now,
And then on top of that, the Raiders one was salvage, one because he fell into the end zone, but then also there was like a 40-yard run.
yeah,
Otherwise, he was held in check against a defense that's been pretty bad against running backs.
exactly. And so my thing is, I think that there is a negative game script today.
Okay.
So I
Well,
think Cincinnati, because we both picked Cincinnati to
Mhm.
win the game, will have the Ravens having to throw the ball, and that gives me more confidence in Zay Flowers and possibly double stacking. I'm not really in the mindset that I should double stack Lamar Jackson, but we're on early only, which gives us only 6 games, so you could do that if you wanted to.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I guess we'll just kind of fit that in. And as a natural bring back, are we going all the way up to Jamar, or are we gonna?
I want to.
Yeah.
I want to play Jamar if I can.
Obviously, he's the most expensive skill player on the entire slate today, let alone on the early only at 8,000. So it's pretty affordable, to be honest. But we'll just kind of have to see what else we can kind of fit in later, because we've already spent a good chunk. Um, yeah,
I know there's some running backs on these slates that we want to talk about, but early only actually has a pretty tough running
very
back slate.
gross. Yeah.
Do you have let's go through them though, because of course we just talked about Derrick Henry. If it is a positive game script, you want Derrick Henry because he's going to get 20 plus rushes. He's probably going to fall in the end zone. But up here, are you comfortable with anybody else 66,000 or up?
I really don't want to spend up in the 7K range if especially if we're doing a Baltimore stack.
Mhm.
Derrick Henry, don't mind getting to him, on early on the slates if we're just doing him as a solo play. Obviously, JT's out. Devon Achan has the ceiling, but Raheem Mostert's back, and they just have looked such an eyesore offensively that it's just literally, can he break a 70-yard run to salvage his day?
Right.
Because it's going to be pretty much bottled up. Don't love getting to cook today. So now it's kind of like going down and cheaper and cheaper. I think Chuba Hubbard's in a good spot because we just have seen his opportunity over the last 2 weeks. 26 opportunities for 169 yards, and then 22 opportunities for 121 yards. Scored both games, 31 and 25 points respectively. Like, he's only 6,100
Mhm.
still. The interesting part is because Deontay Johnson has also killed it. They're the same price. And I wonder, especially on an early only slate, how many people will be willing to play both, or if they're going to have to make a decision between one or the other. But both of them should be north of 30% owned on this early only slate.
I think that also we talked about the wind gusts and everything like that earlier. I think that helps Chuba Hubbard more than
Right.
it helps Deontay.
And then on top of that, obviously, Jalen Johnson has been one of the best corners in football.
Right.
So Chuba Hubbard, if he's in a better matchup, better game environment, that might be my preference, especially on a running back slate that basically all the running backs we love are in the afternoon slate. That's why I
Right.
like it more. But starting with Chuba and then kind of going from there will be my preference for this build.
We talked about Ramondre Stevenson in our first look. Well, Andre has currently been said he is not going to start because he has had some fumbles.
If you look at the fumble column, he's 4 for 4. You would want a lot of money doing a chain parlay with fumbles with him. But yeah, he was in a great spot today against Miami. You saw what Pollard and Tajay Spears did to them on Monday Night Football, and I'm just not going to trust him if he's not going to get the starting job. And maybe that's smoke, and he ends up having 15 carries and is efficient and stuff like that. But way too risky for $6,000.
Right.
I'm not saying that you have to go to Antonio Gibson, who I believe is 5,100
Mhm.
in his spot, even though Antonio Gibson played really well last week. But he's also had fumbling issues in the past. So when you get fumbles, then they're gonna still ride with him
Right.
because he's had inefficiency and on top of that doing that as well. So it's kind of you're gonna have to get uncomfortable with the running back position on this slate, on the early only. Um,
I just got a notification. Sam Darnold took a hard shot to the ribs and is down and in pain on the turf.
ooh,
I don't really know who they have behind him. Um, that's terrible.
is
um,
it not still Nick Mullins?
I
Yeah,
guess
because
it
Nick
would be,
Mullins
yeah.
came in for 2 plays against last week.
Yeah.
So
So hopefully he gets up and he's good to go. Dustin also asked, seems like he's talking about HN. Seems like they lessened the short throws to HN after Tua went down. Any reason the Dolphins coaches aren't using his receiving ability more to open the offense? I actually don't think it's necessarily the coaching staff. I think it's the fact that they can't push the ball down the field.
mhm.
And
And so
so
everybody's just playing up.
yeah, so they're capable of just saying, "Hey, we'll just make sure someone's on HN and he just can't get the ball." Because Skylar Thompson can't throw the ball down the field, and then you had Tyler Huntley last week, and that was the worst football to watch of possibly the whole season. So, yeah, I think that's probably why we're talking about Antonio Gibson. I have a question because I just thought about it. Justice Hill here at 5,300. I know we're in Lamar, but this is actually the guy that gets the
The targets
targets
and the
when
negative game share. Look at the yeah.
didn't really think about him prior to this as a stacking option
I'm
with
not I'm
Lamar,
not
but
against that. One of the excuse me, one that I wanted to bring up and mention because he did have his breakout game last week and is in a fantastic matchup
Mhm.
and it correlates with the other running back that we chose. Was going to bring up DeAndre Swift
Yeah.
at 5,700. Obviously, if you went over to his game log, not only did he have his breakout, touchdown run put over, but as a receiver, 7 for 72. That's what we've kind of seen him in the past. 16 carries, 93 yards. Obviously, Khalil Herbert
Mhm.
was phased out and Roshan was getting the goal line work. He ended up scoring for us basically at minimum price, which was cool, but he was way less involved than we even thought he would be. So it's still DeAndre Swift, and it's kind of like if he's finally getting to the 5 yards carry, which he has not been throughout this season, 5,700 is a pretty good bargain. And due to recency bias, he's going to pull some ownership. I think it's a really good spot to attack again from him. And if not, even if you wanted to sprinkle a Roshan, that probably will be pretty low owned as well at 4,900. I think is a reasonable way to go. Just to kind of get different and save some money.
Right.
And
One
then also wanted to mention Trey
Yeah,
Sermon
that's what I was gonna
because
say.
out obviously due to an ankle sprain, he was just kind of inefficient. He's always kind of that way. This is his first, I guess, true start that I can remember. But he's kind of bounced around his entire career. Maybe he has a 30-point game. Maybe he has another 5-point game. I don't know. It's hard to have confidence in that. But if it is supposed to be a rainier game and have a more wet weather
Mhm.
environment, that caters to him.
Yep.
And 5,700 is not a bargain for him, but it's like, okay, if you're the last man in, I guess we'll put you in if we wanted some to get something at that game. And we
Right.
couldn't get to Michael Pittman.
Michael Pittman or Josh Downs, if you
Yeah.
were comfortable that way.
Right.
Let's build out this line though. Do you have a place you want to go at running back that you're just like, okay, this is reasonable and it allows me to go up at wide receiver maybe or
Well, put in Chuba. That's probably my most confident running back remaining, other than, obviously going up to Derrick Henry. And then do you have a preference between a Swift or going down to Justice Hill?
we can play Swift because it correlates directly with Chuba.
Okay. And then if
And
we need to go down a couple hundred, then we know where to go
right,
later
absolutely.
on.
The game that we aren't getting to yet is the Indy Jacksonville game. A little bit of rain, but I'm not that worried about it. When Joe Flacco's at the helm, he's going to throw it as much as he can, basically. And without JT, I'm expecting him to even try to throw it more. So, do you want to get some of those Indy Jacksonville guys at wide receiver?
Yeah, but we're really gonna run out of room fast if we double up and go 5,700 and either 6,000 or even 51 for Josh Downs. Um, I actually want to kind of go over to tight end
Yep.
real quick because this is really you go up to Kincaid or you go way down
Hmm.
because obviously you see Ingram is not going to play today, even though he's questionable. Very unlikely to play. David Njoku is likely to play, but very limited.
Hmm.
So I'm not going to play him for $5,000. So it's basically Dalton Kincaid, who's been kind of so-so, but he's had 3 straight negative, way negative game environments, or Isaiah Likely, who's been underwhelming, and then it's just dirt cheap guys.
Hmm.
To save some salary, is there anybody that's kind of sticking out to you that could maybe kind of help get us up to some of those guys?
Um,
I'll even pull up the
yeah, I was
RotoWire
gonna
values
ask.
as
Tell
well.
me what you're seeing over there. I know that there's a couple guys we can talk about. I mean, Strange is still an option. He will start because, as you said, we have Ingram out. Um, Everett,
Um,
Stover, Sample,
okay,
just
so
nothing
the
comfy.
highest value projected is Brenton Strange at 32.
Okay.
Obviously, other than last week, who I think he ended up getting 6 points, which is I guess okay when he was
Hmm.
3,100. It's not the end of the world. But then after that, it's Dalton Kincaid, which obviously he is by far the highest floor and ceiling combination. Basically, if David Njoku is projected for 8.3, but it's basically Dalton Kincaid projected for 10.4, and then it's all the way down. The second highest, other than David Njoku, is Brenton Strange, is the highest projected point total. So that's how poor this slate is. Another guy in a good game environment, possible bring back option, Eric All.
Yes.
3 straight games, 4 targets, 4 receptions. He's 700 still. That's a lot of salary if you wanted to go that route. And it's just going to be an ugly tight end slate.
So a full game stack with a really cheap tight end.
Mm-hmm.
Not against it. Let's throw him in there and see what we got. We got some
4,500.
money. Let's go
But
to
we're
defense.
going to go cheap defense. There's not even like an obvious spend up on this slate anyways. I mean, the Bears versus
Yeah, I don't know.
Panthers, I guess, like I feel good, but not for 3,600 kind of thing. Don't mind New England at 29.
Yeah, they're
They've
my
had a couple
favorite.
of good games, and then obviously Miami can't push the ball down the field. Um, Picking the Browns outright correlates with Washington struggling on offense because this isn't going to be a 30-27 Cleveland upset. This would be a 17-13 Washington couldn't get anything going.
Right.
2,700 is reasonable. Houston as a home favorite, 2,600. Don't mind that, especially close Shakir's out.
Right.
If you're painting the narrative that Josh Allen struggles again or starts turning the ball over, that's a reasonable price. Is there any of those that kind of stick out to you?
Definitely New England. New England's my favorite on this slate
Okay.
because Miami is just so bad. They're going to be, it's a little bit colder. It's not cold weather, but going up north, I can't get behind anything Miami right now. And that kind of drives my thoughts on this one.
Gotcha. Okay.
Let's see, we have,
So basically,
let's go get that
I
Jacksonville Indy
really
game.
want to try to get a Jacksonville Indy stack. We're a little short if we just kind of do an organic like Kirk and Downs.
Yeah, we almost got there. We're 100
Obviously,
short.
if we went to Zay Flowers instead, or if we went down to Cleveland's defense, we could get there.
So that was pretty. Yeah, that's what I would do. Just throw it in. If you go up $100 more, if you really want Brian Thomas Jr., you can get 10. He's had 9 targets in the last 2 games. He's the big play kind of guy. And then if you wanted, obviously Christian Kirk has the upside to have, I don't know, 15 targets. It feels like right now. So looking at him, we obviously can fit him in this line, which is cool. So this would be a really cool first look for this slate, I think. Do you have anything you dislike about it?
Not really. Obviously, if price didn't matter, my preference would be Michael Pittman Jr. But you know what, the ownership's going to correlate with that. But if you look
Right.
at Josh Downs, even though Michael Pittman had his 100-yard game, John's still 9 targets, 8 for 82 and a touchdown. Like he still has that upside. Obviously, they're not using AD Mitchell enough since he came back. So it's just really a 2-man show. And then obviously without Jonathan Taylor, they're going to be throwing it even more
Right.
than they even want to. So as long as the weather holds up, I don't mind either. But yeah, that's a good way to go. It's a pretty good correlated line.
The Vikings score a defensive touchdown, pick 6. Vikings are up
Great.
10-0. We are wrong at the moment.
Fun.
The Vikings are so good this year, and I don't understand.
Andrew Van Ginkel, man.
I mean,
He
They
has been playing
they
out of his
lost.
mind.
They don't have two of their best players. Like they lost one of their best players in Daniel Hunter, and then they replace him with Andrew Van Ginkel. Feels like a really big,
Drop down, but he just scored
he's
his second touchdown of the season.
and he's had multiple sacks, and
Yep.
he's been really good. So I mean, and then Sam Darnold has been him. So, yeah, Minnesota. Where's Nick? Nick's in the chat. Nick, you in the chat, bud? He's like, we want to hear it, man. They're doing really good. Let's go to your lower tier
All right.
build.
So
Who would you rather have?
So here's my thing. With both Trevor and Flacco, usually you want to do a double with either of them because neither of them really provide rushing upside. Sometimes
Right.
Trevor will sneak in for a rushing touchdown, but usually you want to kind of double stack. And I actually like Michael Pittman and Josh Downs as a double more than I do Brian Thomas and Christian Kirk.
That's fair.
So I think I want to go that route and then just kind of do a natural running back of probably Kirk, and that's a 4 decision start right there.
Yep. All
And
of
then
them.
we can see what else we can do.
Let's grab Kirk and let's go down to Downs. So there's your single game, 4 decisions right there. That's pretty easy to get to. Now we can go to running back, which is the gross part of this.
It might just be more of the same. But right now, because we're not doing the Baltimore, and I do want to give exposure to that game, let's spend up for Derrick Henry.
Perfect. His bring back can be Eric Hall, or we can go all the way up to
let's see if we can.
Kincaid.
Let's see.
Which running back, which spin down running back would you rather have? Justice Hill. Well, we put Derrick Henry, so I wouldn't put Justice Hill. But Antonio Gibson, Roschon. Which one of those two?
Probably Antonio Gibson.
Okay, you'd rather have Antonio Gibson.
Because on this one, since we didn't do New England defense last time, that was where I was going to go next. And then obviously, if you want to correlate defense and running back, usually more often than not works out for you.
All right, so we made like 59, 3 decisions.
And then obviously, so if we went all the way down to so I'm trying to math in my head. So if we're 3,900 and below, we can get Jamar as the bring back or the last guy in.
Hunter Henry.
Does any of those excite you, or do you want to be like, no, we're gonna have a lot of money, let's spend to the highest, safest, all of that, and the other for Dalton Kincaid?
Well, we could get some guys in this range. Oh, is there somebody that stands out if we did go up to Kincaid? Let's put him in and like just.
It would be in the 60, I think around 6,700.
Yeah,
or 66. Let's see.
DJ Moore,
revenge spot.
Zay Flowers.
Zay
Flowers. But that doesn't correlate with our running back.
Oh, that would be 5 receivers. Pity. I did mention to you the other day that
Deontay.
Yeah, Deontay. I'd probably decide with Chuba over Deontay at this point today.
Right.
Yeah. Let's go ahead and do that. Do 500 savings.
Yeah.
And
this doesn't feel tournament-y though. So I mean, this feels like a solid line to like play in cash, even though we have some extra money. If we had one more 100, we could have gone up from Antonio Gibson. I actually want to do this really quick and put running back. Let's put
see last guy in.
Yeah, who's 5,100 or 5,600? Eckler, who is back. Brian Robinson.
He's a true GTD, but it sounds like he could play. But he didn't practice the first 2 days of this week, so that's always a concerning thing Thursday wise. But it's not like a great spot to get to today. We
didn't get a bring back against Derrick Henry. Chase Brown has had influx touches recently, which because he's so efficient with them.
Another idea, kind of spinning top of my head, is instead of Derrick Henry, we can go down to Justice Hill and then bring it back with Jamar Chase.
Wow. Okay. Thanks. Let's do that. That sounds like fun.
That does sound like fun.
Bang. Wow. That makes me feel a lot better. And we do want Derrick Henry today. We will have, if we do early only, we will have him. But I mean, I'd rather have Chase if I get the opportunity.
Right.
And you can kind of paint the picture that, Cincinnati's winning and Baltimore has to throw the ball and they throw it to Justice Hill. eight
And
times I
to
could
be
have.
honest, even though I did mention about the Josh Allen, like surprised you didn't go with him as a possible double. At the same time, it's really hard to have confidence in a Houston bring back today because obviously Cam Akers in the last two starts has been underwhelming
Right.
and his price still went up and Damian Pierce is back. So it's kind of murky there. Nico is all the way up to 77 and they've been very good against wide receiver ones this year. Stephon Diggs revenge spot could be a thing, but I think he's 69. So kind of got to spend up for him. And then Tank Dell is back today as well for what it's worth. So it is kind of tougher to have kind of confidence in any of those guys
Right.
as the bring back. So I understand now why you did what you did.
I also will say, if I had to pick one, I want Nico. Like we had this conversation yesterday. If you had to pick Chase or Nico outright, like who would you go with? And it's like you're splitting hairs
Right.
because Chase hasn't had that game where you're like, okay, we have to have him. But any time he could do 0.8 on 7 targets. So
Mm.
Nico, on the other hand, has been just so good, and I just don't know if anybody can. He went 12 151 a touchdown last week, so both of them have these big boom game opportunities. But if you had to pick one outright, it obviously we're siding with Chase at the moment, but man, it is so close. So that it's definitely an interesting debate. I think that if in the chat, I'm sure most people would probably say Nico because that's kind of the the guy that's been doing it, but it's just so close in my personal opinion. Do you want to do any more on this slate or
No,
do you
I
want to go
think
over?
we can move on over. And as you are, a quick update on Aaron Rodgers. His day after one quarter of play: 3 for 9, 16 yards, 2.8 passer rating right now.
Wow.
1D8.
Okay.
So that's fun.
We just I don't know, trusting
Yeah, shame on us for trusting Aaron Rodgers, I guess.
yeah. Oh wait, which game how many games are in this slate that we're looking for afternoon?
The 4.
The 4.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's a 4 gamer. Okay.
Yeah, so a bunch of small slates today. Obviously, there's a London game that doesn't help, and there's 4 teams on bye. So slate very easy to explain, break down.
I actually like the afternoon way more now that I remember who's on it and everything. So
Yeah.
this is a pretty easy slate. I'm only playing one quarterback personally.
Yes. The fun thing with what is your? Do you see what the stream is doing? It was like
it's fixed. Okay.
okay, yeah, we're good. So the thing with Jordan Love, obviously, he's our favorite quarterback by far. He might be the highest owned on this slate or rival or basically kind of split ownership with Brock Purdy. The thing with Green Bay is basically all of these guys are going to be the highest, like some of the highest owned or highest values. How do you kind of have the confidence of who to double or like on this slate because it's only a 4 gamer? I'm looking to triple stack
Yes.
Green Bay, but having the confidence of where we're going with who, because Tucker Kraft's going to be the highest owned tight end. Jaden Reed's going to be the highest owned receiver. Dontavian and Wicks will have a lot of ownership. Bo Melton might be the lowest owned, but he opens up 30, like he's only 3,300, opens up a lot. And then Josh Jacobs should gain some ownership because he's reasonable price, 6,400. Harder to correlate, but it's worth mentioning at least.
Right. The pricing is incorrect basically on this team.
Yeah.
You look at Jaden Reed, 6,500. He should probably 7,300 or something like up there.
And it also doesn't help. Romeo Dobbs, obviously, he is suspended this game due to kind of some team issues and rules that he broke. And it sounds like it'll be kind of reconciled by next week. But for the time being, with him and then Christian Watson obviously being out due to an ankle sprain, we just know where the ball is going. And so unless Luke Musgrave just comes out of nowhere and has 2 touchdowns and upsets us, or Emmanuel Wilson kind of breaks a couple of touchdown runs, I think I know exactly where I want to go if I'm doing the Jordan Love. It's just kind of breaking down, can we kind of get different a little bit in certain aspects?
Well, I know what I'm going to say is that you're going to have this a lot.
Yeah.
That is going to be the main bread and butter for this slate, because let's talk about tight end for a second and not just Green Bay tight ends. Let's talk about all tight ends, right?
Or no, it's not. It's actually
not terrible. But Trey McBride is questionable. Probably will play.
He got downgraded on Friday, so that was an interesting thing because obviously he missed last week due to concussion. So him being downgraded due to a rib injury is interesting because that was never popped up.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I'm not sure if that just happened or it flailed up or what have you, but something to keep an eye on because that's like we mentioned, tied for the highest total today. Um, and in terms of bring back options, obviously it's easier to bring back a Trey McBride than a Marvin Harrison.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how high we're going to get in terms of other receivers, but basically the receiving room is going to be filled out by, Packers and um, Rams or a couple other spots that we like.
Yeah, and I will say, like, just looking at this, I'm gonna pull RotoWire, or do you have RotoWire
Yeah, I
open?
got it.
Okay, yeah.
I'll switch to the afternoon.
Tell me what the tight ends, like, what the projected tight ends are, because I know that there's no good values at tight end, because other than
So
Tucker
George
Kraft.
Kittle, highest projected 12.2. Trey McBride right behind him. Obviously, Brock Bowers right behind him. And then it's Tucker Kraft. Colby Parkinson. If you want to click on him, he's had a pretty reasonable target share. He just hasn't scored. And it sounds like a lot of tight ends are dealing with that same problem. So if you don't think any of these top four options, like on an afternoon slate, I don't know how you can get away from any of those four or fade all of those four in favor of a Noah Fan or a Greg Dulcich or Theo Johnson because it just gets really really ugly because the four of the five highest values are the same tight ends that we mentioned. Brock Bowers is obviously a lower value. Basically, a lot of people hate the Raiders today. A lot of props are going down, so that's kind of why
So pick them
Bowers is
outright.
lower projected.
Got it.
Huh. So I think it's easiest to just kind of put Tucker Kraft in and then figure it out from there.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to kind of get a little different, because with a bring back of the Rams, there's one specific guy in particular that we love, but there's a lot of good running backs on this slate. So if you wanted to get away from this guy that we really love, I think Colby Parkinson could be an interesting, correlation bring back piece.
Right. And he's talking about Kyron Williams, 7,600, and he has, 22 plus opportunities
He
a game.
scored 6 touchdowns in 4 games. He's finally being efficient, and that is purely due to offensive line. But he's as safe as it gets. Green Bay has been bad against running backs, except for what was the game? Oh, Tennessee.
Tennessee, yeah.
Which we don't love that running back situation, anyways, and we didn't play it that week. But I mean, averaged like 10 yards a touch to Jonathan Taylor. They were just playing from behind, so he didn't
Right.
have a boom game. Saquon Barkley 3 touchdowns, and then last week, Aaron Jones, he didn't score but had 120 all-purpose yards, very efficient. So Kyron Williams, if we know that he's going to get 20 to 25 touches, he's probably going to score. He's going to get over 20 points. So you just got to play him.
Yep. And he's probably going to be, let's see what RotoWire has for roster percentages. It looks like he's going to be the
second highest,
39% owned.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, don't disagree with that at all. I want to actually point out something that I think is crazy. I went to wide receivers and looked at their roster percentage, and I mean their values. Bo Milton, Jaden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks are 1, 2, 3.
Yep.
Like that's why we're playing this stack. And also, Jordan Love, it's not like he didn't have 389 yards last week. Like
a lot of that was in catch-up time, but there's been kind of susceptible to the pass game. So it's just kind of been a rough go for them from a defensive perspective. Obviously, Caleb Williams didn't throw for a ton last week, but Brock Purdy the week before, 292, 3 touchdowns was basically flawless.
Right.
Kyler Murray had 3 touchdowns by halftime, and they basically pulled the offense. And then obviously with the Detroit Lions, they love to run their running backs. So
yes, absolutely.
kind of a mixed bag in terms of what they've allowed, but it's like the efficiency and stuff like that. So when it's good matchups, you just kind of got to roll with it if they're in a good environment, and that's kind of how they kind of produce on offense.
31st ranked per game, total yards per game, 31st. Actually worse against running backs, but at the same time, Green Bay doesn't necessarily they're not going to run Josh Jacobs 30 times with Jordan Love in the game. Of course, they did that with Malik Willis in week 2. It's just not going to happen that way. I did want to shout out. Thanks to the Gale. We appreciate you for always being in here. And yes, please like this stream. and help us out so we can get as many people in here watching and we can get as much of our stuff out to y'all. Hopefully we can help y'all win some money this week. That's the plan, at least.
Yeah, and so kind of we talked about Kyron, but obviously the most rostered guy for what fourth streak is Jordan Mason because his price is going up not enough, and then Arizona has just been god awful defensively. It's been more so against the run than the pass. But last week, $200 pairs to running for touchdowns allowed. Jordan Mason is just getting a bell cow roll. Nobody's competing with him for touches, and even with the full roster back last week,
Right.
still going off the way he did against New England. So he's in a great spot. He's highly rostered for a reason. But with so many good running backs, I'm not saying that he's necessarily a lock. None of these guys, even Kyron that we love, is not necessarily a lock for even a slate like this, just because there's 6 options. So if you play 3 and it's just not the 3 I'm playing, or it's mix and matching, because we'll talk about some of the others in a moment, like I'm fine with that. But it's a great spot. You can't deny a lot of these guys in just great game environments for themselves.
Right. And we actually talked about this yesterday a little bit. Is there a way to fade Jordan Mason because he's going to be so highly rostered? And I'm like, well, 2 weeks ago, you wish you faded him when he only had 10.8 points.
Right.
Now we play a lot of sports and stuff. There's sometimes guys that are just 60% owned, and you're like, hey, can I get away from this guy and not play him? Because if I do, I have this massive leverage against the field if he does not play well. This might be a spot where we could see that happening. Now, if you're playing cash, you're playing Jordan Mason.
So painting the narrative, right? Because obviously you got to tell a story with the game, because it's very unlikely somebody's going to just get blown out. Like a Green Bay Packers situation where they're down 28-0.
Yes.
And then they come all the way back to make it a 1-score game. And it correlates with 4 different Packers going off despite them kind of essentially being handled the entire game. So with this game, you picked Arizona outright.
I did.
And so if you think a game is going to be closer and maybe they're going to be playing from behind or even trailing, Debo's 600 cheaper.
He is. Yes, he is.
And on top of that, if you're looking at roster percentages, I'll just put up the entire skill positions for like 54%.
Yes.
No one else is 20. So Debo's 19%. So you get way different leverage with him. Brandon Ayuk, because he's been struggling, 17. And then you go all the way down to Kittle's 18, but he's a tight end. So really, there's only a few spots that people are really targeting for that position.
Are you on the main slate, or are you on the afternoon only?
Afternoon only.
Okay, so I'm seeing 45% going to Jaden Reed and 39% to Kyron.
Mm-hmm.
So you said 20%. I just wanted to make sure it was.
I'm talking about the 49ers.
Oh, okay. I was
talking about Debo.
Okay, yeah. Okay. That's how I was like, I'm
not overall the highest owned. I'm talking just 49ers. And how to get different from Jordan Mason if you think it's a different game script than touchdown favorite.
Right.
And so you're picking them to win outright. So you, as a just individual, should be even more confident in a Debo,
right,
going that way instead of Jordan Mason, because there are so many good running backs and everybody's going to be playing Jordan Mason. If you play a high dollar, low entry, not low entry, but low entrance contest, he's probably going to be like 70%. Mm-hmm. So it's even bigger deal to get different in that regard.
Yeah, and I'm not scared. I've never been scared to full fade someone that is supposed to be the best play on the slate. That is not something I am scared of doing. I've done that multiple times.
More often than not, when somebody is the chalkiest of the chalk, and that means like main slate, you're 50% owned on a main, that normally does not work out as much as people would like to think.
Right.
The hit rate is like less than 500.
Right.
So it's like if less than 50% of the time I'm just eating chalk, it's working out for me. Stop doing it, because 50% of the time, if you would have been different on these low owned guys, I don't have to do the math on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. And you win, not that you win more often or not, but like you actually will get the higher value out of it.
Right.
Next up, though, we have Kenneth Walker. He had to play today, and we're about that because he had 2 touchdowns last week. Actually, against a really good Detroit team that we've been attacking for our prize picks and underdogs, taking the under on all the running backs. We did not decide to do that last week, and I'm happy that we didn't, because Kenneth Walker hit us over pretty easily, actually.
He made me happy and sad all in one occasion, just because he's one of my favorite running backs to watch. And he was coming off a oblique injury, it wasn't necessarily that what was I was fading him for. It was because Detroit for a year and a half have been number one against running backs, and it hasn't been close.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked pretty good. But then he started doing parkour off
Oh
of
yeah, that was
Alex
crazy.
Anzalone, and then breaking away for touchdown runs, and then catching passes, and it's just like, well, damn. I guess we're just gonna play you every week. And so now the Giants, obviously they're home favorites by a touchdown. I'm surprised it's only 6 points. Um, but Devin Singletary's out, Malik Neighbors is out, so even more possibility of it being a positive game script for him. And really, Zach Charbonnet, even though he was much more serviceable this year than he was in spot starts last year,
Right.
he really didn't eat much into Kenneth Walker's first game back against a tough matchup. So it's like, if that's not the case, we're just going to continue to ride him. And so for less than 7,000, we really like getting to Kenneth today.
Yeah, I think that it makes a lot of sense to get a little bit of him after he was just so efficient. 6.7 yards per carry against a really good Detroit Lions team. The next one up, of course, we talked a little bit about Josh Jacobs. He is, if you're not going to stack the Green Bay game, he would be if you're not going to do the Jordan Love route in the Green Bay game, say you go Purdy or something, he is an option. The next guy is Alexander Madison because he is now the spot starter for years, and he's just been okay. But you're getting a starter at 5,200. He's probably going to get 50.
And he has more
5% of
pass
the
catching
route. Yeah.
upside than Zamir Whitewood. Obviously, he's got 2 games of no receptions, but he also has 2 games with 3 and 4 receptions and over 10 yards of reception. So I don't know. Again. It's funny because last year he was the guy that was default falling into a starting role.
Right.
And so for redraft and best ball, he was going in the 5th, 6th round. And obviously we faded him, and it was a good decision because he was awful. And this year we were like, Zamir White might be the guy that's just by default. It looks good on paper. He's fallen to a role, but he's not a pass catcher. They're going to be trailing. Doesn't look good. And so how ironic would it be for Alex Madison to unseat him and be the reason that he ends up not working out and returning value on his draft? And obviously it just hasn't been good for either of them.
No.
But he's been one that has had higher boom games, especially in a PPR format. So 16, 13 points, 5,200, very reasonable. Denver's not great against running backs, but they're also a good, they're might be one of the most popular defenses today.
Right.
Because a lot of people are getting to them, and then all the over-under props are getting bet down for the Raiders right now.
And then the next guy on the list is in the same game, same price, everything. Javonte Williams. He's got talked about a little bit. He was actually, I've seen him as one of the top ownership guys for certain sims, which is crazy. He's actually got a 24.2 roster percent, and I'm surprised that people have that much confidence in him with how he's played this year. But hey,
it makes sense based on the matchup.
Yes.
It makes sense based on the role he has.
Mm-hmm.
It makes sense with a lot of that. But I just think projections and the ownership is just reflecting way too much. I think he's going to turn it around here.
Right.
And usually when those things happen, it's when people least expect it, like DeAndre Swift last week when he was less than 3% owned, and then he goes for 30 points. Javonte in a great spot, can't deny it. But you're telling me you're going to be one of the 3 or 4 highest owned guys on the slate. It's like I'd rather just kind of either spend up or spend down because I know Josh Jacobs is going to be the workhorse. I know Kenneth Walker will be.
Right, for sure.
I want you to be, but you haven't shown it yet. So I need to kind of see it. Like I said, just kind of leverage. You have to make decisions like that, and I just don't really want to get there today. I mean, just as an example, I'd rather have Alex Madison at the same price, and he's also going to be way less owned, or not way less, but less owned. And
Yeah.
So you're going to be more different.
All right. And then there's one guy. I'm sure I missed somebody, but we're going to go down anyways and go grab Tyron. He is basically he should be the chalk on this slate, the cheap chalk on this slate, because of the fact that he is falling into a role with Devin Singletary out, and he's going up against Seattle at Seattle, fine, whatever. But he actually is a pretty good pass catcher. So you add that to him, add that PPR. He's only 4,300. He's going to get 60% of the run. let's hope that what's his backup's name? Josh Gray, Eric Gray,
Eric Gray.
Eric Gray. Hopefully, Eric Gray doesn't make our days and make us sad today. But yeah, absolutely.
I mean, with him, I wouldn't call him chalk today just because he still is not one of the 5 highest rostered at his position,
Right.
but he's probably the chalkiest last guy in for your line. So with this slate, I might be leaning because and we haven't gone really over receivers, but there's so many injuries. Devontae Adams, Malik Neighbors,
Hmm.
to name a few. And so really the highest, um, there is one guy above 7,000. That's Marvin Harrison, who Kyler has been very up and down and stuff like that. Marvin Harrison had a great start and then just was non-factor. And it was mainly just because Kyler couldn't get it going. Arizona play calling has been atrocious. But it's really after that is DK, Debo, Jaden Reed. I said on the early main first look that we were going to be living in the 6K range this weekend. So there's a couple of those options, but it's even cheaper on the receiver slate. So since we're not really spending up, I don't think many people are going to force that because they're not trying to get to a 8,000 Jamar Chase or a 7,800 Derrick Henry. But yeah, we're going to get exposure to him. He's going to be fun. And like
Right.
I said, with the 3 running back slate, I think is the way to go on this 4 game.
Yeah, so let's talk about some wide receivers that really stick out. Marvin Harrison has not moved in price at 7,500, even though they got blown out last week. DK Metcalf has been really good. He's gotten over 100 yards in, I want to say, 4 games in a row. So he's been good. Debo, we talked about a little bit. Ayuk has not had his game yet, but I'll tell you what,
It's going to
it's
come when
gonna
he's like
happen.
2%.
And yeah, so this could be the week where you're like, oh, I want to play Jordan Mason. I want to play Debo. Well, and then Brandon Ayuk does it.
Right.
So don't,
That's how Jawan Jennings went off a couple weeks ago
yeah,
when he was the
for
chalk.
45 freaking points. JSN, we'll talk about him a little bit. He's been good for, I mean, Gino also threw for, 300,
400 yards.
400 yards last week. So, to see him only have 51 of them is pretty crazy. But
He had 12
JSN
targets.
getting a lot of looks out of the slot. This guy right here, Wandale Robinson, is actually one of the top 3 receivers on the slate
It's one of the most
for
uncomfortable
rostering.
but comfortable plays that you can think of.
Right.
He's 33% projected to be owned. Will be higher in like smaller entry contests. But yeah, I mean, look at the target share that he had last week, and that was with Malik Neighbors getting his typical 12
Yeah.
receptions, and without him and without Devin Singletary, it's just like if you're going to move the ball at all today, it's going to probably start with Wandale. And 5,600. It seems like that's kind of tough to get to because we're used to him being in the 3s or even 4K this year. He went up a full $1,000 from this past weekend, so definitely a good one to get to. We're gonna have Kenneth Walker in some lines, so
Yeah.
very natural bring back. If you don't want to go all the way down to Tyrone Tracy, but really it's them and then Darius Slayton who, if we're talking leverage, right? Darius Slayton 12% owned, so 20% less rostered, and possibly even more. He is also 3,900, so 1,700 difference.
Mm-hmm.
Is it worth that? Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. Next guy, sorry, let's see. Dontavian Wicks, we talked about a little bit. There is a couple guys that are going to be really cheap that I don't know that we're going to be getting to, but I have to talk about Jordan Whittington. He is one of the highest projected roster percentages at currently on here. He is getting 18.7%, which is pretty solid amount. He had 12.2. He had 8 targets last week. He's going to play, I don't know. Let's actually, I'll pull a snap count up because it's a
he went
lot.
pretty high last
Yeah,
week. Actually,
I think it's over 80% almost.
the thing with him though, I mean, we have a couple game sample size of the Rams being without both Cup and Nakua, and it's just kind of there hasn't been consistency because the first one, Jordan Whittington, we were hoping we're just going to step in. He had more snaps, but just not much production. And then this week, he was the highest owned, or not highest owned, but highest targeted guy, 6 for 62, Tutu Atwell, 4 for 82. He's actually been the one, I guess, consistent one because he had 4 for 93 the week before. But it's like on low targets, and it was basically a deep ball that salvaged his day with each one. He had a 50-yarder 2 weeks ago to set up the game winner, and then, it was only a 25-yarder for his long, but just kind of, he's a big play guy. He's not like the consistent, get a ton of looks and stuff like that. So it's kind of hard to just really pinpoint this offense. And that's why we kind of brought up Kobe Parkinson, because he hasn't had the boom game or like Tucker Kraft just did, but it could be there,
Right.
and you just don't know. And is it worth the salary to find out?
Yeah. Whittington had 97% of the snaps last week. I was
That's great.
a whole 15 wrong. And then Colby Parkinson had 87% of the snaps last week. Tutu had 90, and Demarcus Robinson has actually kind of been going down, which is surprising. He had 85% last week. So they actually played a lot more Jordan Whittington. I think that has to do with the fact that he can block. But if I'm most comfortable with a guy on the Rams, it's definitely Kyron. There's no way around it. So
Right.
if you're not getting to Kyron, this is obviously an option if you are playing the Jordan Love stack. But yeah, is there anybody else that I missed? I want to
One
make sure.
last guy I just wanted to bring up because he killed it last week. You can scroll down.
Oh,
Because he's another value.
I
It's
know
Trey
exactly
Tucker,
who we're talking about. I did forget him.
41. 41.
I see him. There we go.
But yeah, so last five, Devontae Adams didn't play. He was very involved. 7 opportunities. He's snuck in for an end around touchdown to make us happy. He only went up $500. It's kind of more of the same. Pat Surtain, one of the best corners in football. I don't know. With Jacoby, he's been playing a lot out of the slot.
Yeah.
So I actually don't know if that's really going to be an involvement. But Trey Tucker has been more of an outside threat. So it's interesting to know if they're just kind of going to blanket anybody, or if they're just going to be like matchup wise or what have you, how they're going to use Patrick today. But he is worth a look. 4,100. He's a good value to kind of save some money. I'm actually interested in his roster percentage. It is right about 13%, which is honestly pretty low considering the opportunities he could be seeing today.
Right. I completely agree. I was actually going to grab the PFF. Let's see. So 49% out of the slot for Jacoby Myers. Funny enough, Trey Tucker has played 37% in the left, 27% in the slot, and 36% on the right. He's basically also going to see Pat Surtain, who's moves left and right. He's actually a guy that travels, which is always cool. Those guys are hard to find and, whatnot. But it actually looks like Jacoby Meyer has a little bit of better matchup advantage because of the fact that he's in the slot so much. And Pat Surtain is only 8% in the slot.
Gotcha. So. Okay. And I know I mentioned before, like Jordan Love is the clear guy that we love, and it makes me love him even more when I look at the projected roster ownership, because I did say he was probably going to split with Brock Purdy. Well, Roto, and again, you have to take everything with a grain of salt. They have Brock Purdy at 50% owned on this 4-game slate, and only 16% owned for Jordan Love. So obviously, we're leaning with one over the other. But what's interesting is Jordan Mason, who you wouldn't think to correlate as like a double stack with a Brock Purdy. It's normally like double receiver or Kittle and one of them. Because like there are definitely ways and avenues that, San Francisco just does not work out today.
Well, I picked him out. I picked Arizona outright, so it's definitely.
Look at the scenario a couple weeks ago when we were prioritizing like the Rams, and it's unfortunate Cooper Kupp got hurt in the middle of the game, but Matthew Stafford ends up with like 7 points, and they're down 30, so they just kind of pack it in early.
Right.
Like there's scenarios where it's just like 104% between the two of them is pretty insane to me.
I will say the San Francisco 49ers have by far the best matchup advantage on the week, but that doesn't necessarily correlate into how the game is going to go. I know that a lot of people do focus that, but I will say there's every game throughout the weeks, like you'll see 1 or 2 games that are like the exact opposite, where the defense plays really good and you just don't have that.
My thing is like, I don't know how many lines, because we might fall in love with one line, just want to put all of our, investment into that. But if we hypothetically did do a 3 max, I don't even know if there's a scenario, because we would want to get one Brock Purdy line. I don't know if we would even include Jordan Mason in that one.
Right.
We might just be like, all right, Brock Purdy in one, and then when he's not in, we can consider Jordan Mason. I don't think we're gonna be like, all right, Jordan Mason, Brock Purdy. You know.
So Jordan Mason did have a catch called back last week that would have given him a lot of points. I can't remember how long it was, but that did get called back. I will say his role as a pass catcher is increasing, but it's not like Christian McCaffrey. It's not like a lot of these guys. Actually, it's not a Kyron type of role. Where do you want to go in this line? Because we have been talking about all these guys, but where's actually for this line itself?
So I want to add in Dontavian and Wicks as well.
Okay, so we're gonna triple stack.
No, yeah, that's what I want to do with the Jordan Love line today. At least in the afternoon only, because it's only a 4 game, so you can break some rules. And I
Do
mean,
something
obviously,
crazy.
you could have quadruple stacked him last week, and it would have worked out if you had the right pieces. So that being said, I want to go ahead.
The Vikings scored another touchdown.
Mhm.
It is 17-0. We were absolutely wrong, guys.
Yes, sir.
But that's okay. We get to be wrong on stream. Look at that.
So my favorite, going back to this line, my favorite defense, I just want to put it in there to see what we can get up to, is Denver by far.
Of course.
Don't know why they're under 3,000 this week. Even if you click on their game log real quick, you wouldn't think Denver would be a team that would be effective, but 3 of their 4 games, 10 points.
Yep.
Their season was when they had the lowest or second lowest point total, rather, against Pittsburgh. They just didn't have anything other than a sack. But they forced a turnover last week, 5 sacks, 2 turnovers, 7 sacks, and then he had 2 safeties, 2 sacks, and 2 turnovers for us. So against the Raiders, I think could be more of the same.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think it's an easy one to get to.
Perfect. Let's then talk about which other running back we want to get to. I think my preferred is Kenneth Walker.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Well, that's easy then. Am I missing someone we have to have in our line?
Well, I already know what I want to do.
Okay.
I don't know if we're necessarily missing anybody. However, the easiest way that I could just be like, this is how I want to build it, because I don't know if we're able to get up to a Jordan Mason in this line, is going Debo. And then you just have an organic bring back as the last guy in, like I mentioned earlier, with Mr. Tyrone Tracy.
Perfect. I actually want to talk about something else in a second. I mean, this is a beautiful line just by where we were.
Yeah.
That whole line when it was built, there was 2 options. I think you could either go this way, and then there was another one that I could see.
Yeah, let's hear
it. It was, let me take these 2 out. I actually really like those though, because you do get, I want some San Francisco. You're missing out on some San Francisco without Debo or Jordan Mason. Let me grab 5,600 Wandale. And I know that we're not necessarily higher on Jacoby Myers, but he is an incredible spot. These 2 that, like, putting those 2 in there, Wandale with his reception targets upside, is really good. And then if you look at Jacoby Meyer, he is the number 1 in the offense. So if they are down, trailing, and they have to throw the ball, he could be a beneficiary of that.
What would you? It's hard to just project stat lines, but like what would be kind of like a ideal to make you happy with your investment in Wandale? What would he need from a fantasy score perspective?
Fantasy score?
Yeah.
Probably 15.
That's what I was thinking. So essentially, my thoughts is, if you're going with the Debo stack, that's you're playing for him going over 20. Right. So if you do that and Tyrone Tracy just gets his projection, which is 9 or 10, can both Wandale and Jacoby Myers each go for 15? That's just kind of the thing I'm wondering about.
Fair enough. Touchdowns aside, who would you take? If there's no touchdowns, would you take the Debo Tyrone Tracy side? Or
no.
You wouldn't, right?
I would not.
I agree. So that's what I was going to say.
If you're just saying neither are going to score, but which 2 would you prefer? Is these 2?
So this is the floor.
Yes.
And then the other is the tournament for sure.
Exactly. And so with Wandale and Jacoby, both of them are the wide receiver 1s in their team. They're both touchdown dogs, so they're going to be trailing. The Raiders are actually -5, I think, or -3.
-3, yeah.
But either way, they should be trailing both in decent matchups, both clear wide receiver 1s on their team at the very moment. So, like, you make a lot of sense with what you're saying. But when we're making lines, we're making lines for the dominant guys to score touchdowns.
Yeah, so absolutely.
That's just kind of my thing. Is we've done well in spots when we've predicted Debo to go off, and when he does, he does.
Right.
So that's just kind of my only thing with it. And then also, if we're talking about possibly just the fun of vulturing touchdowns of a highly rostered Jordan Mason rushing end rounds at the goal line. Like he's completely capable of that. Week
Yeah.
1, when we invested in him, that was how he scored that week, was a rush touchdown.
Yes. I think both are
For a big
very
team.
viable though.
Mhm.
If one of these guys falls in the end zone, you're happy too. So that makes it, cool. I want to take Dontavian Wicks out, and I want to put
Bo Melton.
3,300 Bo Milton in there because we need to talk about him. Then we'll kind of change this lineup. I don't really know if I have another way of building that I really want, other than maybe just saying we'll do 2 Green Bay players and then trying to build that way. But Bo Milton saves you a ton of salary. This could be the Jordan Mason line, actually. Now that I think
Yeah,
about it.
I mean, we have to do some kind of look, whether we play it or not, but just to what can we get to with Jordan Mason in the line.
I want.
So you easily are able to do Jacoby Myers there.
Yeah,
That's pretty solid.
yeah. If you wanted to do that, I was trying to say, if you'd rather go to Wandale, you might be able to change the defense. Yeah, this is basically kind of how I'm building it today. So I don't really have a bad bad thought about this. Like, I mean, you just throw that guy in there. He's the number 1 on his offense. He's 5,500.
And then also, one more thing before we do get out of this slate, I want to see what a line would look like with one of the dominant tight ends. So a Kittle, a Brock, or a Trey McBride, because they're all in spots that we would get to. Just to see, because obviously Tucker Kraft is going to be a very, very chalky tight end. And I don't think that's always the best thing when you know that there's really good upside tight ends.
Right.
With
Well,
him.
we can get cheap at other positions too. Which tight end is your favorite? Because I'm picking Arizona outright. George Kittle could go crazy. You don't have to play Jordan Mason if you do Kittle.
Well,
you could go Brock Bowers if you think he's going to be the guy today for the Raiders.
Let's pretend, because we haven't done a bring back with San Fran.
Okay.
Let's pretend Trey McBride plays and he's just the best option.
Okay.
And then
Debo.
put Jordan back in. I just want to see if we can figure this out.
It's gonna be close.
And then
4,100.
Oh, I know. Well, I mean, it would be 2 Rams, but putting in Bo Melton again, we get a triple with Green Bay, and I know you're biting your lip, but once we put that in, you're able to afford somebody like a Jordan Whittington, who played a ton of snaps last week, or basically any Ram that you want. Just throwing out ideas and spitballing, because if you don't like that, like, I don't think you can, naturally do like a Trey Tucker and like a Tracy. We would have to maneuver around. But this could also be a Debo line if you want that as well. Darius Slayton
as the guy that, takes over the Malik Neighbors role. Just kidding. I don't think there's anybody that can get 15 targets on this team, obviously, except for maybe Wandale, because they force him.
We just know Darius Slayton has big play upside, and if there's just way less target competition, they're going to be throwing more.
Tyron Tracy
makes sense,
but I don't want to play 2.
No, I would definitely do Trey Tucker if that was the guy we went.
I have an idea,
but
this is what we're gonna do.
Okay,
we're gonna put Debo in instead of $600. I need $600. At running back, we'll Walker it. That's just what we're doing. And then where am I at? 2,000. Wait. What did I do wrong?
Yeah, you can't.
I have to have a cheap running back, which $4,300 Tyron Tracy, and then I have 45, and I'm $100 short. I'm $100 short from getting Jordan Whittington.
It's okay. I mean, to be honest, playing this, I just wanted to kind of to tinker around, just because there are viable tight ends on the site other than Tucker Kraft.
Well, you could,
but it just, for somebody that has similar upside, honestly, today, if you kind of looked at his game log, being 2,000 cheaper is just harder to not. Yeah, once you put in Bowers, you're able to
do some things
to do the Ram. But yeah, we might play 1 or even 2. But basically prioritizing a Green Bay stack, and obviously got to get some San Fran in there, and then bring it back. And Denver defense is basically the way I would approach that contest.
I'm really surprised Gary hasn't said a word about his team. We're just over here talking him up, and he has not talked about the Green Bay Packers one time yet in the chat. Ricky, our video editor and basically all technology guy that helps with us in this. He is also a Packers fan, so got lots of Packers buddies. They were very happy when they beat Dallas last year. Everybody else in the grid is basically Dallas
Depressed.
guys. Depressed.
Remember how Brees Hall is just going to run away with being RB1, and
That didn't
he
happen.
had 10 carries for 4 yards last week, and then at halftime is going to have 3 carries for 2 yards.
Jeez, how's Braylon doing?
3 carries for 3 yards, so
Oh.
he's 1 yard better.
Hey, that's a lot
Yeah.
in retrospect. Let's go to the main slate.
Okay.
Because we're a little early, but why not? We're about 10 minutes early from doing main normally,
That's fun.
but let's check out. Oh, look, we have some free contests. Don't forget your free contests, guys. DirecTV. Not going to let you watch the games, but you get to bet on them. And DoorDash, of course, Miller Lite. Okay. Some beer, some food, and some really. I mean, I thought the DirecTV thing was interesting for sure because I was like, I don't understand why we're just making such a big deal. But
Well, I mean, they're just a dying company. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
fair enough. And they're just trying to reach for anything they can get.
Yeah, I've grown up with DirecTV, and I always have my parents complaining about, oh, there's nothing to watch. And it's like, yeah, no shit. Figure it out.
Watch Hulu. Watch YouTube
Well, they
TV.
got Wi-Fi for the first time last week, and they've been having a ball with it. And
I'm
this is
glad.
Just like, I was like, yeah, this is. I was suffering growing up.
This is
with
real
all
life.
this.
This is how it's supposed to be. For quarterbacks on this slate, we actually already talked about all of them.
Yeah.
Which is I like doing it this new way where we're just like now we can just dive into main.
Right.
If y'all came in late, we did already talk about a lot of these quarterbacks. If you have any like weird questions, you can scroll back and watch the early only or the afternoon slate that we already talked about because we talk about these same guys. Just the only difference is ownership's going to be a little different, of course, because there's more.
Yeah, let me pull that over.
And then also value is going to be the exact same though. They're all going to be the same price. So
yeah. So, kind of, I'm very straightforward with kind of the builds I want to do today. Like, I may be open to a high Josh Allen or Lamar one. Obviously, we would be doing that if we're doing 2 early only lines, but Jordan Love, maybe 2 Jordan Loves, just because there's a lot of ways to bless you. A lot of ways to build him and stuff like that. And then a Flacco and or Trevor Lawrence line is kind of what I'm looking at. Brock Purdy is just, and we were talking about the afternoon only ownership, but he is still the highest projected overall quarterback today. And it's just like, you're going to correlate that with being the highest roster running back. And it's just like, I don't know if there's a way that both of you are going to prosper. I mean, this is the defense to do that, but I just don't want to build around, like we just mentioned, doing a Jordan Mason and ex San Fran player with the bring back of Arizona that I'm not comfortable with, et cetera, and so on. It's just a less comfortable build in my eyes doing that. Don't mind any of those guys as a standalone, except for Purdy, obviously. But that's just kind of my thoughts with the quarterback slate in general.
Yeah, I'm gonna actually give the top 10 quarterbacks by roster percentage. Brock Purdy at 14.8, and then second is Lamar at 11.8. So a whole 3% difference. Jane Daniels at 10.3, Josh Allen at 8.4, Deshaun Watson and Geno Smith at 7.3, Jordan Love at 6.2, Joe Burrow at 4.9. Like these guys, it's just kind of like it's very spread out this week. Jordan Love is actually the 7th highest quarterback on the slate, and I love that so much.
I don't understand the lack of ownership. Last week, I've been kind of referencing DFS Kitchen because PFF was not being our friend this year and doing projected exposures, and they were like way wrong on a couple of guys that it wasn't even close on, and I had a feeling that there's just no way. One was Bijan being
28%
by far the highest or second highest on running back, and he ended up being like 7%
over Jordan Mason.
Yeah, and it was just like, okay, like I have like an internal clock with some ownership and roster percentages. I mean, you do as well, but yeah, that was just it's one thing to be kind of last second news doing like we knew everything going into the slate. Like start of the morning, we weren't waiting on anything really, and for it to be that different was kind of rough. But let's just kind of build around and see what we can do today.
I'm starting Jordan Love today, so this is great, Dustin.
Let's go.
Yeah, I'm not playing you today, so it doesn't matter. Looking at some of these guys, though, which quarterback do you want to start with and kind of go over?
Our favorite one, Jordan Love.
Perfect. I can do that all day long. We are not triple stacking on main. I will be honest. I will not allow Cam to try to talk me into that one.
I mean, here's the thing. It is viable. I'm not going to do that
Yeah,
with any of them.
right.
But it is viable. I mean, you saw last week, you had 3 different guys score 20 points for him.
Yeah.
And they're all 3 guys that we're going to be looking at today. And that doesn't count Bo Melton, who there's not much value at receiver today in the 3,000s. We talked about 2 guys for 10 games, which is Darius Slayton, which is our 3rd favorite Giant. And then going down to Bo Melton, which is probably our 5th favorite Packer. But he makes a lot of things work.
Right. What I did want to say was Jaden Reed is going to be, and he will be in every lineup that I do with Jordan Love by far. Yeah. Best option.
He's the only guy that you have to do, and then just
he might be 100% with or without Jordan Love, in my personal opinion. Like 6,500 is too cheap. His role is insane. Here, I'll pull him up so we can see him. Good guy, 7 for 8 or 8 targets, 6 in games that he's played with Jordan Love, 8 targets, 6 targets, 138 yards, 139 yards, touchdown. He gets rushing upside, scores touchdowns on the ground. He's averaging 33 points with Jordan Love as the quarterback. You have to play him.
Yes.
There's no other option. It
could have been more. There was a touchdown call back because they were trying to play 12 on 12.
So. I remember that. That was crazy. So yeah. He will be in every line that we have with Jordan Love. He'll also possibly be every line, period.
Yeah, I think here's the problem. My favorite is the same that basically everybody's going to play with the Jordan Love double. However, because Jordan Love is only 6% projected, which say that inflates to like 10%, it's not going to be crazy.
Right.
Like we might be like overall like 3 or 4% duped going Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft. And Tucker Kraft just opens up so much at tight end that I know that might be the most popular way to go.
Let me check the tight ends, actually. Tucker Kraft is 11.6% owned.
Yeah, exactly. It is the highest owned tight end.
Yeah.
But again.
But he's also got by far the best value.
Remember what we talked about with the values? Like the 5 highest projected values are Packers, essentially, or 4 highest, rather. So it's like all of these guys are getting some ownership. Even Dontavian Wicks, 13%, which I think that's probably about 10% too low, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But either way, like any way you go, I think we're a little bit overthinking it because we are being different without knowing it on the quarterback.
Right. I will say I'm more comfortable with Dontavian Wicks, but you can't get over the fact that you're saving $1,500 to get a guy.
2,000 really. I mean, because
right,
really it's like it's okay. Bride middle game time decisions, but say they play like they're very volatile. And then Brock Bowers, who is an okay matchup, decent opportunity, but that's kind of it. What you smirking over there for? We're just gonna have 2 today.
No, I left it Dustin first too, though.
Okay.
I don't see this issue. I love the 12th man.
I love
it. Great comment.
Shout out Aggies for beating down Missouri yesterday.
They had 12 guys on the field the whole game. Yes, Wicks. If he has 2, we will be playing.
We're gonna. So here's the deal.
Guys.
I at the very moment am probably leaning towards doing 3 to 4 lines, and I'm doing at least 2 with Jordan Love, and so one's gonna be a Reed and Kraft, and one's gonna be a Wicks and Reed. So how do you want to start it?
I want to play more lines than 2 with Jordan Love.
Really?
Okay. Yeah, that's how I feel.
So you're playing like how many lines today would you be?
I'm truly my only quarterbacks, and I know that this is whatever, but like Jordan Love, Joe Flacco.
Okay.
That's literally where I'm at.
Okay.
I don't think I'm going to spend up to Lamar or obviously Josh Allen. Like those are my guys.
All right. Sounds good.
That's where I'm at.
Well, then we'll. Okay.
So but you also have. I mean, obviously, you might not just want those 2 guys, but yeah,
that's fine. No, those are the same guys. I would throw in Trevor just because, but I told you earlier on the early only. It's easier to. I feel better about the double of Pittman and Downs than I do Brian Thomas and Christian Kirk.
From any media, go Aggies yesterday, man. They looked great. How about the return of Wegman? Huh? How about that? Man. That's awesome. Happy to see it. Even knowing he talks like a.
All right. tangents aside,
Sorry. Yeah.
so let if we're doing that, can you acknowledge that like this is going to be a double that you're going to play with the Jordan Love,
Yes.
one of your few
Yes.
lines? So then let's build it this way because we're also going to bring back with Kyron, and then we'll just kind of see what we can do.
Which game do you want to go to? That's the real question, I think, next. Like, there's going to be some games that we're going to want. How about this? Let's just throw in a cheap defense. Would you like,
Denver.
you want Denver over the Patriots?
I think so. Let me look at the roster
Ooh.
percentages actually.
Yeah, let me tell me. I want the
Um,
Patriots, I feel like.
They're the two highest owned.
Oh, okay.
14.4 and 14.3.
Well,
So
okay.
splitting hairs. I mean, we're probably just gonna mix and match.
Yeah.
I don't have a strong lean, but I'd probably prefer just because of the consistency. Whereas New England, it's the idea of just Miami sucking. But what if they do have two break off touchdown runs and then just don't have turnovers? You know,
Right. Gary left to Dustin, and then shameless plug for viewers. Dustin and I will be releasing our weekly college football recaps, and A&M will be discussed. Back to the NFL. Thank you.
yeah, back to your regularly scheduled program.
But yeah, so Kyron's going in. Running back wise, there's obviously all the running backs we talked about earlier. There's a ton of really good ones on the slate. Which way would you like to go? Would you like to do the pay down, or like how do you want to start
No,
this?
I'm
Because
doing double up top.
perfect. That's I completely
this
agree.
line.
So this guy, or we're gonna go up to Mason or Derrick Henry. He's an option
What
too.
is Walker's roster on
Overall,
13?
yeah,
Let's do Kenneth Walker.
he's the cheap. He's the lower one.
I already know how this line's going to turn out.
I think I've made it before.
Okay, so I just love getting to the Jacksonville Indy game.
I
I'm
was
praying
gonna-
for
Michael
no
Pittman.
rain or a lack of rain. So a Pittman and Kirk.
Cool with me. And we have the cheap guys to make
Maybe.
all of this. Yeah, we do.
Let's see.
Pittman, Kirk. What is it going to
This is
come
gonna be
out
like
to?
45.
Perfect.
So,
4,300. Tyron Tracy.
Jinx.
Cool.
Bring
Whoa.
back. Uncomfortable. Don't matter.
Not
Play.
uncomfortable. I feel
First place?
I feel comfortable.
$1 million.
Yeah, right. There it is, guys. Don't
Boom.
take a nice picture. We'll all see you at the top.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in the Broncos, go New England. I'll play both. Who cares? It'll be great. We'll go party up there.
And it's also an even split because I really like when I'm able to do half the line at the start and half the line at the finish. And it's basically like you got about 5-6 guys at the 3 o'clock, and then about 3 of your core plays in the 12 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's really easy to know what you're getting and what you're looking for.
Yep. So I think that's a great way to start. Now let's do. I'm just gonna clear it. It's gonna be. Let's do. I mean, I'm gonna.
Jordan Love.
Yeah,
Wicks,
it's easy. We know who the guy is. We're gonna go Wicks this time.
Wicks and Reed.
Okay, and then Kyron stuff.
Okay.
Just, I'm asking.
Yeah. You don't have to, sir.
I didn't think so.
All right. Kyron Williams. And let's see.
We have to play Jordan Mason sooner or later. He is 32.6% owned.
Let's try to fit him in this one. I just don't know how. Well, here's the deal. If we're hypothetically say we play 3 Jordan Mason lines, at least one has to have Jordan Mason. So let's try to find a way to fit him in. Tight end is going to be interesting because you didn't want a triple. So how are we attacking that position? Look at all those Q tags.
Kincaid, because that's a high scoring game. That's going to be good.
I have no money.
I actually think going to $3,200 Brent Strange, and then coming back with we're going to do a similar build, but it's going to work out with. It would have to be Downs.
I think so. Yeah.
Well, let's go.
Put in
defense. Shoot, what am I doing?
Our one of the 2,900 defenses. Sure. Fine. Yeah, we would kind of be back where we were, which would be about 4,900 for the last guy in, or Downs, which would bring us up to 58.
Yeah.
Which is Wandell territory. It's
JSN, Trey Sermon. Oh, well.
Yeah, we're not doing
Andy. Yeah. DeAndre Swift is an option. Christian Kirk. We already did a Jacksonville guy. Wandale. I could be. I mean, he's going to be let's see. I bet he's top 10 or top 5 ownership wise.
No.
Ooh, he's not. Where is he?
He is 8.8.
Wow. That's a lot lower than I expected actually for him. Not against going there. We could also go up.
I also don't know why Terry McLaurin is the 4th highest projected owned receiver. That doesn't make any sense.
14.9. Yeah, that's way too high. I'm surprised he's over Dontavian Wicks in general. Jordan Whittington's, yeah, no way.
I'm also surprised of another guy we haven't mentioned, but JSN, somebody that we love, early season, and he just hasn't had his boom game other than a highly efficient or highly targeted game against New England back in week 2. But him getting 13% is kind of interesting. But
Yeah, I agree. But let's see. How do we want to finish this line out? Could we go up to 6,000? Michael Pittman, who is top 5 in owner or top 10 in ownership on this slate. 4,900 takes us to.
I mean, Josh Downs being 6% is pretty crazy.
Yeah,
Not gonna lie.
Roshan, we talked about a little bit. You could get any of the Rams. We could also. Why don't we just not do that? Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're doing it.
Which
No,
tight end do
we're
you
not
want to
doing
do?
it.
You want to do this guy? Is that what you were thinking?
No.
I
was thinking the fun triple stack.
Oh no, we're not doing that.
Oh, okay.
Get out of here.
Well, I'm not leaving. We can't go that high.
Well, we can.
With Mason. No, we can't.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I'll just let you cook.
Yeah, we can.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Bo Melton.
Oh no.
Okay. Come on, I'm trying to please.
We needed $400 more.
Gary.
I know. I'm trying to get everybody in here, right? Needed $400 more.
I'm giving you options. You don't like my answers.
You're giving me options. The same guys. No Jordan Mason because.
Okay, that's
Jordan
what I'm
Mason
saying.
is
I
just
think it's kind of hard to deal with him.
We're gonna fade Jordan Mason today, guys. Tell the world.
Hey,
no,
no.
Don't create a short. I was just kidding.
Yeah. Slow down.
We might. Hey, I would be willing to fade Jordan Mason on a 10 gamer.
How about I don't know. How about Chuba Hubbard?
Okay, 6,100.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then at this point, we can afford a higher
Expensive
price tight end, or we can try to get one more nice piece.
Who is the highest projected tight end today?
It's Tucker Kraft.
No,
or you're talking points wise? Yeah, points. Oh, George Kittle.
And
Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid is third.
We have no 49ers.
Yep.
We could go George. We could go Trey McBride. Either one. You let me know. Your choice.
Oh, neither.
I didn't cook well earlier, so I'm gonna let you. You could go Kincaid, Bowers. Bowers is in a situation like we keep talking about that's in a good spot.
What? Oh, we're 200 short.
To do what?
Crazy. I was gonna say we could do all the way down to Eric All.
Mm-hmm.
But we were just short for like a Derrick Henry. But also, you like Zay Flowers today.
I do.
And he, from a roster percentage, is 7%. It's a pretty solid tournament play.
3,900 left over at tight end.
I mean, we can. So, how about this? You go up from Downs to
Perfect.
Pittman,
Good call.
and
we
then
go
we go to
Strange. Strange.
Oh, that works too.
Well, they correlate. That's why I thought that.
I mean, Eric Hall correlates with Zay Flowers.
True. Who would you rather have? Strange or All?
300. No, I don't think you can get to Brenton Strange with that hypothetical.
Who am I missing?
Because I was saying if you went up to from Josh Downs to Pittman and then went to All, that's what my idea was.
I see. Pittman. No, you're probably you're a little short.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Eric All's fine. I'm on board with Eric All. I mean, we're gonna be switching stuff around, but also, it's very easy to just throw Tucker Kraft in there.
Yeah, damn
at
right
any time.
I'm
not doing it in this build though.
Bullshit.
But yeah, no, you could just throw Tucker Kraft is going to be the easiest guy to just chunk into lines because he's way too cheap for his role, and he's going to have 6 targets in my opinion. And that if he falls in the end zone, you're going to have one of those days where you have to have him. So he's pretty easy to get to at 3,500. He has the highest value on the slate by far.
Of course, Alan Lazard is scoring touchdowns again. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I hate him.
Oh, I was also going to say that the highest projected defense value-wise are the 2 we talked about. So
nice.
Yeah, we seem to have that one right. and then it's not going to work out because defense
Well,
hates us.
well, something interesting because again, we're the lone wolves on picking the Browns,
Mhm.
right? And the Browns were the number one defense last year, and right now they're doing fine, but they're just not creating turnovers yet. And you
Mhm.
just never know when that may happen because those are kind of random. They're 3.6 projected owned, and that could be honestly even lower, just because they're dogs on the road. Like nothing on paper screams pick Cleveland,
Right.
especially with how hot Washington has been offensively. So again, we kind of brought them up earlier. So maybe throwing a sprinkle of them is kind of makes things fun.
Yeah. So Brenton Strange.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Brenton Strange and Cleveland.
do it.
Sounds good. Okay. So there's the line. This would be a line that's set up for like a Baltimore negative game script for Derrick Henry and a positive game script for pass catchers.
And then always
And
kind of as a
then,
reminder, if you're playing a main and you have a 3 o'clock receiver or whatever, always put that in the flex just because you never know. There's last minute injuries, there's last minute decisions, or you got to switch some things up later on.
yeah,
So
you
I
don't
know
want,
Zay Flowers is in the 12 o'clock game. So if you did copy this line, make sure that you have a Dontavian Wicks in the 3 o'clock
yeah,
as your flex
because
kind of thing.
we're making sure we're playing Jaden Reed. So you're not going to move him anyways. So
Yeah.
make sure then you can just go, where is Zay? Hi, Zay. Yeah.
Bam. Yeah.
So you do it that way. Now you can switch
In
Dontavian Wicks
case,
out.
Dontavian Wicks has the flu. Okay, well, we're gonna go down to Bow Mountain, or maybe we want to do Josh Jacobs, or who knows?
Yeah,
Like,
you can maneuver at that point because
it's
there's
easier to maneuver.
yeah, with the flex spot because you can't play running backs and the wide receiver spot. So you can't or tight ends or anything like that. So
Mhm.
getting that ability is good. Let's build another line. What do you want to go? Do you want to go with the different quarterback?
Yeah, let's try I mean, this will put us at 3 lines with Pittman, but we're gonna do a Joe Flacco double.
Well, yeah. Have to go Pittman.
Yeah, Pittman, Downs, and Christian Kirk is a bring back. So all of our receivers figured out to start this line.
Whoa. 57. Okay.
All right. So
Defense, I'm 2,900. Doesn't matter who you
Pick
pick.
one.
Patriots, because I have the mouse.
Well, all right. Okay, so with this one, we've done 2 lines with Kyron. I don't know if I want 100% exposure. I'm not against it.
Yep.
But again, like I don't mind.
Well, let's just go
doing
Jordan
that route.
Mason.
So let's start with Jordan Mason because we still haven't put him in yet. Let's do Kenneth Walker because he's fun.
Okay. Tight end. I think we should just play the tight end that we keep talking about and throwing him in.
Craft. Oh yeah, it could be. Oh wait. Are we going to be 100% to Jaden Reed?
Yes.
So
yes, we are.
then take him.
Get out of here, loser.
Boo.
Go
All right.
away.
So at this point, this would be a spot to put in Jaden Reed in the flex just because every single receiver, the first,
Yeah.
is in the 12 o'clock games, which not many people are going to do that. But again, it's just good practice when you're making lines.
So Mark
not
Andrews.
playing Mark Andrews.
Guys, what is going on?
This is
hey,
insane.
This is the week that Kyle Pitts gets right and Mark Andrews gets right. All right. You ready for it? It's coming. That would be absolutely insane.
Yeah.
I wish I could take a full take on that and be like, yeah, let's put that in a short, but I just can't even fathom the fact that would work out. So,
all right.
Where are we at from here?
It's kind of a weird range
we
for
could,
tight ends.
We could actually bring back Jaden Reed and Kobe Parkinson. Immediate bring back. I don't know if you like it or not, but I'm just saying it's there. We could also
How
go.
cheap do we gotta go to get a 5,000 tight end? Like hypothetically, we took out Kenneth Walker. Okay, so we could go in the low 5s or mid 5s.
Yeah, we can go DeAndre Swift. We could go all the way
too rich
to 51.
Yeah, correlate with the defense with Antonio Gibson, who right now I'm not on running back. 5% owned.
Yeah,
as a home starting running back, but again, there's the risk of is the starting running back thing smoke? Or are they both?
It's a one drive thing.
Is it like a ETN thing where he hurts his shoulder?
Yeah,
and he doesn't start or play for a whole quarter, and you think you're out, and then no, he plays the rest of the game, his normal role, kind of things like that. You
could also make the case that not going here and going to Well, so we needed that was 5,800. That was
Right.
where we were sitting. So that was kind of the range actually that we kind of want to get to. There's not really anybody else down there except for maybe Alexander Madison, Justice Hill. I don't think you can.
Javante.
Yeah, he's going to be high owned though. So it's like, do you want to
Well,
eat chalk?
let's see.
Ish chalk
He
ish.
is 11%. So that's not crazy, but or 12.5 rather. It's not crazy, but you know, it just doesn't make me happy.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do Justice Hill because I think to me, Justice
Yeah.
Hill in a game script that I'm expecting is going to be on the field a lot.
Okay.
And if you look at the game scripts that we're talking about, he is in the first 2 weeks.
But here's my question.
8
Are
targets.
you more confident in Justice Hill than Cam Akers?
Yes.
Okay. The
Which
reason I
is-
ask is because we could afford Cam Akers and then correlate that with Dalton Kincaid. Because
But I can get
basically,
Brock. And that always makes
I
me
don't.
happy.
It does, but I actually like Dalton more today.
I don't disagree with that. But I always like getting Brock.
Mhm.
Let's go
But
check.
Cam Akers is going to be under 4% owned as a home favorite today
So-
against Buffalo, who just allowed 200 yards to Derrick Henry, and then obviously a ton of yards to Justice Hill and Lamar Jackson on the ground.
Yeah. I wish he could ball.
Yeah, upset me, but guess what? 2 straight games where he just wasn't really that involved,
Yeah.
and people just aren't excited about him. And if you don't want him,
I'm not
and
excited, but hey, that's kind of what we're getting to right here. He had 40% of
why
the
is Dameon
snaps.
Pierce not even projected?
Cam.
Hmm?
He only had 40% of the snaps. So Dare I'm gonna mess this up. Bale, he and Cam Akers are actually on a direct split. In week 3, it was 42% Dare, 43% Cam, and then last week was 39-40. So that's why also it's like I just need him on the field. And he's not that guy right now. So me.
That's fine. We don't have to. I'm just
Can
trying to
also
play by the rules, man.
I can also I mean
But again, if similar correlation, because you did Brock Bowers, and Brock Bowers,
yeah, that's a fair
it's an ugly game, but I don't know if many people are going to be correlating both of those. I think if either of those guys are played, it's more so standalone guys.
right.
So, and then Brock, 5.7% owned today. So he's still
Telling you.
okay. Let's do that
Telling
then.
you.
Let's do that then.
Give me Brock. All right. So
Now, or I mean, we can still stay with Patriots, but just correlating.
yeah,
running
we
back,
would switch to
we
I
could
yeah.
if you want to, but
You are
don't have
playing
to.
Brock in this line, but yeah, you could always go and
You
put
could get his, and that's the only touchdown they have.
the
It's fine.
Broncos in. And then either way, I don't hate it. Looking at this though, it's a solid line. It does take up a lot because of the fact that we're using all the wide receiver spots for our main stack, but we like so many running backs, it doesn't necessarily matter.
And we still have room. So here's my question: as a standalone, or not as a standalone, but as a pure price doesn't matter play, would you rather play Kyron or would you rather play Jordan Mason?
Kyron.
So then take out Jordan Mason right now and
Okay.
correlate that with Jaden Reed.
Okay. Don't tell me twice. Yeah, I actually
Williams.
Think about this though.
Yep.
Like Kyron is getting 23-ish touches a game for the last 3 weeks. Jordan Mason is doing the same thing.
Mhm.
And so it's like
It's really hard.
both
Both good matchups.
good
Splitting hairs.
matchups. I think Arizona's going to win. Give me Kyron Williams.
It's the thing of shoot, like they're the 2 highest owned running backs, and for good reason.
Yeah.
But if Jordan Mason's going to be 33 and Kyron's going to be 21, you know, it's weird because a lot of times more money left over usually is a less duped line because you're getting different by leaving some room on the table. Well, in this line, if all the 8 are the same and we're just deciding between those 2, I think more people would play Jordan Mason than Kyron Williams.
Agreed. Completely agree.
So
I'm going to say that the Green Bay Rams game is going to hit the over, and we're going to need Kyron because he's going to be the guy getting the ball.
Yeah, you don't say.
So let's do it again because we have one more. Let's do one more line
Okay.
with this setup. I think honestly I'm going to build similarly, but just so we can kind of get a different tight end in there, we went Brock. That's not as normal as what we've been doing. We could
How
throw
about
a cheap tight end in. We could,
can we do Tucker Craft?
yeah,
Can we please do a double without Jordan though?
uh,
Please,
I guess
just
for you
yeah,
this
please.
one
Yeah,
time. Okay,
Tucker Craft. You're scrolling too far.
what?
Yeah,
Okay,
Gary Jaden Reed, and then figure out some running back.
2,900.
Yeah.
So we have $7,400.
Oh, that hurts.
And I'm sad.
Well,
But we could, yeah, let's, yeah,
Cleveland.
let's do it, and we'll just skip both of
I'm
them.
so happy. Let's go. That's fun. This
Okay.
is fun.
I enjoy this show. Yes,
Yeah.
this is
Kinda
a
do
fun
that
show.
anytime.
Even though there's only 3 people hanging out with us, but we love you 3 people.
OBJ's playing today, huh? Interesting. I don't think that matters at all, but
OBJ.
that's what Gary just commented.
Now there's 7. Hey, wow, you're
Okay.
asking receipt, man.
Yeah, please.
4 more.
Just as a quick update, Aaron Jones will not return to the game due to a hip injury.
Okay.
So if you started him, bummer for you. Obviously,
Aaron Jones being out sucks.
Yeah,
for sure. Hurts.
Hopefully, it's not a significant injury, but they do have a bye coming up, so that is good. Hopefully, it'll just be a minor thing that they won't miss time on.
Yeah. We're almost to injury reports. I guess they come out in a few minutes.
Yeah, but again, we weren't really waiting on much. I mean, if you go through the slate, like most of the people that we know are playing, like some of the Q tags, like Evan Ingram wasn't expected to play, and even if he does play, it doesn't scare me away as much.
Right.
Anthony Richardson was not practicing with the ones on Friday, so I don't know why you would do that and then also play.
Let me refresh and see if.
And obviously, we're not playing any indie stacks if he is playing because it's so different. So as a go, I'm still waiting. Luke Musgrave, I know we're playing Tucker Craft, but he is going to test out his ankle, but he's going to be limited at best. He does play, so that just caters more because Tucker Craft, in terms of snap counts, pulling that up real quick.
I have it.
Each of the last 2 weeks, I went too far. 86% of the snaps last week. Obviously, Luke Musgrave's kind of hovered around. Well, actually, not hovered around. He's 20, 30, 40, 50. So he's kind of been sporadic. Tucker Craft has been the one that's like 96, 80, 67. But then last week, obviously, when they were trailing in a good game script for the past game, went with him 86%. So
right.
It just makes you feel even better. Again, he's the highest owned tight end for a reason because he is mispriced.
Oh yeah, Tucker Craft. Tucker Craft's way mispriced. It's not necessarily even a question. I will say also, looking at this, I mean, we're waiting on news obviously for Anthony Richardson. That will change our lines, but I don't think that that's going to change anything because he's going to be out.
Non fantasy news, but fun for you. Max Crosby looking to play today.
Well, that's good. Devontae's gone, so that's always fun.
Yeah. Odell will be playing for what it's worth.
He's got to be $3,000. He's got to be.
So, I mean, shoot, the lack of value, sure.
Good to go.
That was as of yesterday, I think. So, I'm still. That's like the last guy that we're really waiting on. Just like a true.
Yeah, Devin Singletary is going to be out. Oh, let's see. Damian Pierce is a Q tag. I'm guessing he'll be out.
Let's see. Still waiting.
Nope, nothing else on the running back.
In the meantime, the second half of the Jets and Vikings game has started. Jets are with the ball down 10.
Down 10. Okay, that's good. So, hey, that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, the Jets have just been terrible.
Yeah, and then also another shout out to our favorite running back in college right now, Ashton Jeanty, with another 186-yard and 3 touchdown performance at halftime. And
Did not play in the second half.
Even though he's played 5 games, there's been 2 different games where he has not played an entire half. So he's basically played 4 games. He is over 1,000 yards already with less than 100 attempts.
Yep. He is a different breed, guys. And we talked about it, him being a different breed. I mean, he's that guy. He also has, I want to say, like 12 touchdowns. I have it right here. Give me 1 second. He has a ton of touchdowns.
He has 15, right?
He might. 16.
16.
Rushing
Sorry.
only. Just rushing. Just rushing. I
yeah, you're right.
don't think he has any receiving
No,
touchdowns.
he had one.
Did he?
I'm pretty sure he had one.
+1. Yeah, so he is basically the most electrifying player in football, and he should be. I loved what Devon A. Chan said. Did you see it on Twitter?
No, I did not.
He was like, Ashton Genty is a top 5 running back right now in the NFL, and he's playing in college. And I was like, yep, basically.
I mean,
he is now
that's basically
the
what he's playing.
consensus Heisman
Front
runner.
Thank you.
Plus
Finally.
225.
It took him way too long.
Way too long. Travis Hunter is still second at plus 320.
He just keeps getting leapfrogged by Milrow and Ward, and then now
Well,
Kinky.
all those guys are see you later after yesterday. But yeah, me and Dustin will obviously be recapping this, and that comes out on Tuesday. So,
well, I was wrong about him having a receiving touchdown so far, but that doesn't mean that he is just a workhorse bell cow, just get attempts and nothing, because last year he had 43 receptions, 569 yards, and 5 receiving touchdowns with a 13.2 yards per catch average.
Yes.
He's just doing everything right, and it's just fun watching him play.
Yep. Yes. Cam Ward did have a great comeback last night after being down by 25 points. I will say, though,
3rd super dog in a row.
Yep, I did hit 3 super dogs in a row, so we're gonna have to have a party, and I'll get.
You almost got an outright win on them if they just didn't collapse.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but hey,
yeah, we had a long day yesterday at a wedding, and we came back and we fell asleep, and we were like, all right, it's time.
Yeah, we were both in the wedding, so we had a full day, and both yesterday and the day before that, so we were a little tired, and we missed out on the great comeback by Cam Ward. But is there anything else, any other slates y'all want to talk about while I'm sitting here just blabbering?
Well, I definitely want to check out both a showdown slate. One, it should be just an interesting game tonight, and then also the primetime slate, because we, for the first time in a couple, it's back to 2 games. So that is the only one, and it's a very interesting 2 games, because Dallas honestly could go the Chiefs, just because the Saints have had 2 games of 40+ points and then 2 games of just mediocre offense. Kansas City down their 2 best skill players and just kind of whatever. But there's so much value, because who is stepping for Sheet Rice other than Xavier, who would be reasonably as well. So
let's look at this primetime slate. Which quarterback are you building around?
That's a tough question.
I was going to say.
But I was thinking Justin Fields was my favorite. And the reason is because I can get away with the single stack.
Yeah.
If I need to.
Fair enough.
Otherwise, like Mahomes, I don't know if you can get away with the single. Dak, I guess you could.
I don't want to.
But I don't want to.
But,
and then Derek Carr is, I'd rather just not.
Brandon Cooks going on IR, though, you do open up some value because of that, I'm guessing.
Well, they're priced up a little bit, but I think Jalen Tolbert's still below 5,000. Yeah. So he's playable still. I just don't think he's an easy click per se, because, like, just as an example, 100 yards,
hey, Sam.
$100 more, Jake Ferguson.
Yeah.
I love Jake Ferguson.
Right,
and
fair.
And also because Jake Ferguson, Travis Kelce, and Pat Freiermuth, who had his breakout game last week, which he was one of our tight ends. I think double tight end is in play today as well.
Okay. Yeah, let's throw Justin Fields in there, because
and Pickens, again, he just kind of is staying below 6,000.
And let's look for another Pittsburgh guy. Oh, wait, there's none. Wow. Calvin Austin, 3,300.
Yeah, he had a boom game, and then he had nothing.
Yeah.
I will say Jaylen Warren is out. So if you want to do a double with a Najee, not against it, he's the same that – and Cordell Patterson also out. So he was getting a ton of touches last week in a spot time, and then – I forgot the backup's name, but you got to scroll all the way down minimum price for Pittsburgh. Champlin.
Champlin, there.
He came in for some snaps, because I know Najee got rolled up on a way, which I don't remember if you or know if you saw his screenplay where he trucked.
I didn't see.
Yeah, it was a really impressive run.
Gotcha.
But he got hurt, banged up, and then Champlin came in. So by default, because they're not going to give 100% of the snaps to Najee, one would think.
Right.
In an Arthur Smith frustrating offense.
They're going to give it
play at minimum price if you really need to get that cheap. But there's not really a running back other than Kamara that's really an elite, like, price play.
Right. So the this guy right here is going to have rushing. Don't you worry, because he's the top end, and that's just what happens.
Yeah, that's just what happens, man.
So yeah, for sure. I think if we just took this out, Pat Fryermuth is obviously in play. If you're going to do a Justin Fields stack, a double stack, these are the two guys I would go with if you had the option. Guys at running back that are really interesting. Kamara is just going to keep getting 25 plus touches. Why not? I mean,
Kansas City number one running back so far, but he's also not additional QT by his 9 targets last game,
right.
where he, had his typical game where he was like
Oh.
just 4 yards to carry, but he scored. He had 7 receptions. Oh, 25 points. All right, cool.
Okay,
So
I did get an update. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no, you're good.
Brian Robinson's in, David Njoku's in, Anthony Richardson's out, Damian Pierce is out, and Evan Ingram are all out. So
Damian Pierce is out.
Damian Pierce is
So
out.
so that one line, and again, I'm not
Right.
forcing Cam Akers in any lines today because back-to-back disappointments, but he is in play,
Yes.
in my opinion. Just because that's one of the higher totals on site. And Houston, Buffalo, we really didn't talk about much.
I just hate his snap share with.
No, I do.
That's the biggest problem. I mean, if he was getting 55%, I'd be like, oh yeah, let's do it. One guy that is getting 80+% right here, and Alvin Kamara, though, has had so many opportunities. 20, 23, 29, and then 28 opportunities in the last 4 weeks. He's going to go over 20 points. He's probably one of the best running backs on the slate, and they're going to be down. So
yeah, there's really 2 running backs or 3 running backs to me are in serious consideration because I'm not really trying for the Rico Dowdle. He salvaged with a receiving touchdown, but that was it. Kareem Hunt actually really took over the snap.
He's going
count
in
this past week,
no matter what.
So he's kind of one of the guys that I really want to get to. If we're playing a Sunday Monday line, or even I did a couple Thursday Monday lines, he's in a couple of them because he's just really easy to get to at home. Finally, with probably a starter role,
right,
as well.
Then of course Najee Harris, who we talked about. So Kamara, Najee, and Kareem Hunt are the main 3 running backs on this slate. Yeah, I don't really think there's anybody else that I'm even gonna
not even
closely get to.
It's just if you want the Dallas one, but the ownership's going to reflect that too. They're going to be probably the lowest owned. I'll actually pull up the ownership for this slate just so we can kind of reference.
Perfect. Did you want to get to CeeDee Lamb?
I think you can
in this build.
I think you still can. Real quick, my favorite defense by far is Pittsburgh.
It's either Pittsburgh. Okay, I think it's either if you're going with a Cowboys stack, you're going to play the Cowboys, and if you're going with a Pittsburgh stack, you're going to play Pittsburgh. And I thought about that because
but at the same
we're
time,
on different
Kansas City
sides.
is a reasonable one as well.
Yeah,
I mean, they just kind of similar to Cleveland. They've played well. They just haven't created a ton of turnovers, so it's been like moderate. But they're 5-point favorites at home. Despite all that, it could be again another low-scoring game.
Right.
But Pittsburgh being a favorite, they're the better defense, and Dallas just kind of isn't really getting it going. Brandon Cooks is also out. No run game. 3,000 was kind of surprising to me. So that's why they kind of immediately jumped off the screen when I did like a first thought, first look.
I then will ask you the next question: which cheap wide receiver do you want?
All right. Well, let me pull up some values just to see if anything jumps out. Juju
That's who I was gonna say.
5.33.
That makes me
projected. Yeah, it's kind of ugly on this kind of slate, but at the same time, Kansas City is probably where the value is going to come. This is a typical Justin Watson also. Throwing his name in there. Sky Moore immediately dropped a pass as soon as Rashee Rice came out, and I remember seeing the owner slam his like fists on the ground because he's just over just his inability to catch the ball as a receiver. McCole Hardman is questionable. Haven't really looked into him, but he was a full participant in Saturday's practice, so that basically, usually more often than not, that means he's going to play. So he's in the fold, but he just hasn't done anything this year. But none of these guys really have. Justin Watson is actually projected for 7, so he's the highest projected chief receiver other than 3,700.
Well, I want to put Juju in, and the reason I want to put Juju in is I know that all those other guys they're not playing Sky Moore. I don't think Sky Moore will be a real big option this week. But the reason I want Juju is because and that was 2 weeks ago, I want to say. When 2 weeks ago, he came in when Rashee Rice went out on one play and ran the Rashee Rice route. and scored the touchdown. I don't know if you remember
No,
seeing
I
that.
remember that.
So I think Juju will get a little bit of a resurgence here. I think tight end is super interesting because I think Noah Gray is in play at 2,700. I know that Pat Frymuth is in.
So one thing I did want to know what was interesting in terms of snap counts. Also, it kind of correlates with the projection, but Rasheed Rice got hurt early after 4 snaps, right? And so after that, they really it was more so Justin Watson and all the 2 receiver sets, and then Juju was in for 3, so he was
The slot.
50%. But the week before, he played 55, so he actually played less snaps. Justin Watson, on the other hand, has been about 45 to 40, and then he jumped to 70. Sky Moore stayed at 20. McCole Hardman actually came in for 7 more plays for what it's worth, but that was pretty much it. And then another guy that I'm just like really would enjoy trying to get to is Travis Kelce, because he finally had his boom game, and I think it's just like it's hard to not like him.
The other guy I want to get to is Xavier Worthy, probably at 6,300 if I am going to play this team, but that's actually a pretty steep price considering he's like $200 less than Olave.
And it's not like he did catch we had a Xavier Worthy, or I forget the other guy is the question, but I'm sorry,
Brian Thomas,
which
both went
we were right
really well.
We were right on the call, but Xavier Worthy had his 54-yard touchdown. We were just like, oh well, it came this week, and we also did know Rasheed Rice is going to tear his ACL allegedly,
right?
And but after that, he was really a non-factor. And again, Rasheed was out most of the game, but he did have the game-ending play to get the first down, seal the game for the Chiefs. So he's in play. I think his ownership is going to be kind of too high for my liking.
Fair.
But
only 4 targets is still crazy to me without Rasheed Rice in the game for the rest of the game. So I completely agree. Let's so Kelsey's in there. Let's see what's left. That's basically going to be all the running back minimum price running backs. Justin Watson. I'm not against switching this to 3,700 Justin Watson. 3,900 overall is
Jalen Brooks,
who is not playing. So
yeah. So with Dallas, it's interesting to see how they'll kind of approach the lack of Brandon Cooks, because he didn't get hurt last game to where he missed snaps, because he still played 82% of the snaps. So Jalen Tolbert has been right above 70 basically the entire season. That's why he's the easiest click, but he is also 47. But like a Jalen Brooks has kind of been the active wide receiver 4, but he hasn't not only done anything, but just not played a ton. But then if you read the tea leaves, Ryan Flournoy, who has been inactive, I'm assuming he's minimum price on this slate.
There he is, yeah.
Yeah. He's a guy that would probably be back tonight, and so minimum price, worth a shot. But again, that was one of those that Jerry Jones came out and was like excited to see him. And so like, okay, well, if you're saying these things about somebody that has not played this year, then who knows? And maybe it's worth a dart throw. I don't know if this is the exact slate you need to do that, because it's not like we're really trying to get to anything. It's really more so, we're trying to find the good, just balanced build.
Right.
And it's really kind of hard when you do both Kamara and Lamb. And I was almost kind of wondering your thoughts on fading. Like, if you had to fade one, which one would you prefer?
Lamb, I guess.
Okay.
But it's not comfortable. I'd have to do that, I guess, and take Lamb out.
Okay. So take out Lamb and Gray and see where we would go. Because I also, like I said, really like Jake Ferguson today. And if you went Fergie here, then that leaves about 7,000 remainder.
Yeah.
And that's enough for an Olave, a Worthy. Or, and then the other option was going down. Well, we'd be 300 short, but taking Kamara out, putting CD in, and then going down to Najee, and then trying to find one more last guy in.
56 is
59.
Well, you could get the Dallas running back, I guess.
I don't want to.
Well, I think that's pretty safe, I guess. But do you have 2 Dallas players? I don't know.
So put in Najee real quick.
Tough.
and then take out Tolbert.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And because we only have 2 Chiefs, that's enough for, like, say put Watson in the 700 remaining. You
Yeah,
can even go up in to whatever defense you wanted in this
right.
line. Um, and
It,
I don't know.
let me try a build. Let me
Okay.
go ahead and look at something. Actually, no, I shouldn't have done that. Let's put Najee back. Let's do the double there. Let's go CD. And oh wait, we can't do both. Never mind. Let's do Kamara. I'm gonna do 3 running backs, all the running backs we like.
Okay.
I'm gonna try to what do I have? 52. If I put in Tolbert, I have
Enough for
58,
Shaheed.
which is cool. Not against
Not
that.
against that.
Yeah. So that's a solid way to build it. What if I went down to Watson? Because why not? 68, you can get
To
Olave,
Olave.
which I'm more comfortable with. So
Probably, yeah.
you know, so I think that's how kind of I would want to
We
build
might
it.
do, and again,
No Dallas
we're not
players.
gonna
Wow,
finalize any. Yeah, that would be scary.
that's scary.
But we're not gonna finalize these until later on.
Right.
So we're gonna be getting, cooking our final lines for the main and early only and stuff, and send those out, and then probably later this afternoon we'll finalize a line or two maybe of
Yeah.
this.
And we'll send it in our Discord. So if you're not in a Discord, make sure you get in there so y'all can see all these picks.
But real quick, let's go to that showdown slate for Dallas and Pittsburgh, and real quick as we're loading that up, if you guys have any start sit questions, concerns with sounds like Rogers is hurt, walking off with it now.
That's good.
But anyways, if you do have start sit questions, any kind of last minute to review, go over anything, let's do it. But we're gonna break down the Sunday night slate or Sunday night showdown, and if there are no more questions, then we're gonna finalize our final lines, and then we'll send those in, and we're gonna have a good ass Sunday.
Yep. In Discord lines, and my computer is tripping. All right, better. So yeah, make sure you're in the Discord so you can see all the lines that we post. We're going to be posting those lines. I guess before 12, like 11:30ish today for the main
try to
and early.
do it around 11:30.
Yeah. Where would you like to go? Because you seem to have an idea on this slate.
We'll go to the flex prices just so we don't have to do math. All right, so
I have
it's really
a
hard
place
to get.
I want to go.
It's really hard to get either running back at those prices.
Yeah.
Not opposed to double or either tight end or both tight ends.
Right.
Obviously, Fields is in the play. Is Pickens your captain that you're thinking? Okay, so George. But also he has, if you go to his game log real quick, like he had his 100-yard game last week. He's been consistent with his target. The first 3 weeks, first 2 weeks especially, he had really tough matchups.
Yeah.
He still thrived in week 1, just didn't score. Week 2, he had a touchdown called back and a 50-yard reception on Pat Surtain called back. Week 3, kind of more the same, okay game. And then week 4 had a boom game, but he also dropped a touchdown and he fumbled at the 4-yard line.
Yep.
So he still had a 20-point game, but it could have been even better.
Yeah.
And that was his first true, like, positive game environment. And obviously Trevon Diggs is a, really solid corner, and that could be a matchup to watch. I don't know how much he'll travel with him, but, I think he's just a really strong play. The thing is with Justin Fields' rushing upside, because they're the same price. Typically, you want the skill player in the captain slot because they're the same price. You saw he was QB1 last week. He was our favorite quarterback on the slate. It worked out. I'm not against Fields at captain either,
right?
For that regard.
I think, Fields has had the better of the fantasy points for the year, but I want to do George Pickens. I think in this line,
I don't think you can play a line without, or if you're playing Fields, I don't think you can do it without Pickens.
No, yeah,
but sure. I'm just saying, if you're just trying to decide between the final captain, I think Fields probably is the safer one,
right?
Unless you think Pickens is the 100-yard touchdown game that he is very capable of doing.
Yeah, I think we have to have CD.
Okay.
I don't think we can get Dak.
All right, so 46.
Who's the cheap guys?
I'm looking. So again, I mentioned Ryan Flournoy as a if he is minimum price and he is playing,
he's $200.
He's even more viable on the showdown slate.
He's $200.
Exactly. So
Oh, I can get Dak.
So yeah, Ryan Flournoy right now, and this is why it matters on showdown slates. He's projected for 1.77 fantasy points.
Right.
That is the highest by 2x the value on the slate, 8.895 or 8.85. So if you want to do both wide receiver ones, both quarterbacks, easiest way to get there is by just putting in a min player. Even if it is a lower scoring slate, I think it is viable to do that. Um, I I understand right now the Brandon Aubrey is the best kicker in football. We should have read the excuse me, the tea leaves last week on the Thursday night showdown when he was going to be 40% owned
Yeah, just
to be
not.
like, hey, kickers shouldn't be that high owned. Let's not go 100% of him. And he did well. But guess what? Graham Gano, 19 points.
Greg Joseph.
Or I'm sorry. Yeah. Greg Joseph. I'm sorry. Yeah, he went down with an injury. So
Oh.
I'm not playing him for 5,800 today. That's just insane. Excuse me.
Is there a guy in the 3,000 range or the 3,000 or under range that you like?
So
that's on there.
Kavontae Turpin.
Yeah,
if
that's
he
what I
does
was
get more
thinking.
snaps, last week he actually went down. He's gone down 3 weeks in a row in terms of snaps. He only had 7 on the field last week, so that's not great. Let's see, Jalen Brooks,
Mhm.
another guy under 3,000. Jalen Tolbert is all the way up to 56 today. So tough to get to, but he is in play. That's not a fade by any stretch of the imagination.
Because that's Darnell Mooney's price. If you didn't watch Thursday night, you would have been really sad about
And
that.
then Aaron Shamklin,
Yeah.
the backup running back for Pittsburgh, he's only 2,000. All these guys, there's no true like easy click or easy play, but just kind of worth mentioning with all those guys.
Which of the top 4 would you fade? Can you fade?
Dak.
Okay, so we're gonna make a line without Dak, and we're gonna put Fergie in there.
Yeah, I really like Fergie today.
How about we do Justin at cap though? This guy here, Ferg. We're not playing Dak. We have 2 of his receivers.
It's fine.
We have $200 for Flournoy and $6,000 for nobody, probably
Almost
quarterbacks.
So here's the interesting thing, right? So obviously we played Flournoy, Ferguson, and CD without Dak. It's not entirely scary, but typically different.
Yeah.
So one way to do it is just be like, all right, well, we're gonna fade CD. And in that case, we would be able to afford somebody like a Pat Freiermuth, who broke out last week. Just as a interesting correlation, whatever you want to call it. I know you raise your eyebrows because it is scary to fade CD. He is the highest, or actually, Dak is projected the highest fantasy points on the slate. So if this isn't a game where CD's hitting the 100 and
what's the score of this game?
2017.
Okay, so I'm gonna play defenses and take out all these high. I mean, we're gonna leave the high price guys, but like I'm gonna play no Dak. I'm gonna play CD. I'm gonna come to this middle range. I'm gonna grab Pittsburgh D at 4,000. I've got. I guess you could go. I think
it makes sense. And then Fergie,
son of a gun. I wanted, yeah.
I like Fergie over Dowdle today.
I wasn't talking. No, I was gonna go to Najee, but I thought he was $1,000. I thought it was 78. It's 88. So
well, I mean, if you want to go down to a Flournoy or what is Hunter Lupke? He's 1,000. He's been fullback catching passes.
That's a solid price for that guy. Let's do that here, and then
and put in Najee.
Yeah, that makes me happy.
Beautiful. And then so look at at Hunter's game log real quick, just for context for people that don't follow Dallas. I mean, fullback, and again, Deke's just been getting less. There's not activating Dallas. So 3 of the 4 games, he's had at least 2 targets, and he's been a passing down blocker and just on the field a lot. I mean, his snap share, he was 52% of the snaps, more than Rico Dowdle last week, and they were winning the whole game. And he was the highest snap count player in the backfield. So for $1,000, sign me up.
Yeah, absolutely. So I really like this slate. We'll talk about it later, obviously, and we'll send our lines
put him in the prime time.
Whoa,
That would be crazy.
Craziness. He's probably $3,000. But yeah, so we appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Let me stop the share because that way I can see everybody's beautiful faces. Just Cam.
Well, not in for a good
Which
showing there.
we were joking yesterday about like putting a crowd on the wall or something with like a bunch of fat heads of all of our buddies, because it's weird talking to a camera sometimes, and like instead of
That would
talking
be
to
so
a camera, we'd actually be talking to like all their fat heads. I think it'd be hilarious. But no, we really appreciate y'all hanging out with us. If you aren't in our Discord, make sure you get in there so you can see all of these.
And real quick,
lines.
just want to let you know, just because one of my favorite picks, I think it was on Underdog, was Garrett Wilson's receiving yards.
Yeah.
That has already hit. We haven't hit it in the fourth quarter. So if you did follow that, you made some money.
Perfect.
But just wanted to say that. But they are driving. But
Is it still 17-7?
17-7
Jeez.
into the third quarter, but they are inside the 10-yard line. So they're about to possibly, or they're going to make it a one-score game, but possibly, within 3. But we're going to go finish that game, finalize some lines, get out of here, get into Discord. Please, if you haven't done so already, do so. And, we can't thank y'all enough for joining us.
Right.
Let's make some money. Let's have some fun today. And we will see you guys next time.
Yep. We'll see y'all. Appreciate it.